Joffer is preparing the bowl. But he's snuck in through the back door by the England authorities.
Yeah, people say that, but he's apparently English, isn't he? So
oh yeah, I mean, there's been worse, yes. And I do actually admire the work, not only because he's a damn good cricketer, but he was prepared to do the full 7 years. It didn't change his opinion on, his commitment. So, it's not his doing that they suddenly clipped the qualification period. And it's a heck of an asset.
I still don't understand why he hadn't why there was any question in the qualification period.
Yeah, it is a heck of an asset, that's for sure.
Dave Fletcher was taking credit for New Zealand for not being the Derbyshire player.
Do we know enough about the number 2 batsman? Well, Mosley or Mosley?
It's Mosley. I think, from what Will Rose told me last night, having said at the end of the last match that Yates would open, having put Mosley at number 2 in the scorecard, of course it's going to be Liam Banks apparently. He's going to be opening the batting with Will Rose.
Exactly, I was going to say, very topical.
I'll double check.
Almost music.
I've been confronted with so many names that I've never heard of before. Was that fellow next door suggesting that Rhodes is likely
No, he isn't. I'm afraid you heard him right.
as a batsman?
I think it would have to be as a batsman. He's only a part-time bowler. I know you could say the same about his batting for most of his career, but yes, you could almost call this Essex for the unknowns. Out. Joffer struck. No? Umpire unmoved. Now, do they review it? They were having it on. They were doing an Essex.
The official watch line is Mosley, but I rather suspect no one's actually asked him. So when I get through to him, I will ask him. But in the meantime, it's Mosley.
Right, thank you.
What's happened there?
Well, it's a peel. It's hitting on the hip. And England, of course, went up as one out. You can see it's missed the bat altogether.
And they reviewed it, have they?
Sorry, no, they haven't reviewed it.
Reviewed it.
No, they virtually admitted they were cheating.
Bairstow doesn't. I was getting the impression that he doesn't have much of a
Brain?
Yeah, that is the word I was going to use. I mean, he will always.
I know. It's the Stuart Broad of the batting department.
You want to come on by that?
Both of them are absolutely certain that someone's out when they're not even nearly out.
Or conversely, when he's at the other end.
Yeah. I mean, Bestow's review against Australia cost.
Which is a never.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hitting middle stump halfway up, or 2/3 of the way up. It couldn't be summer, and it was nowhere near the back.
And I had the radio on at the time, and they were, straight away, oh, it's got to be out. Of course it was, and they were all saying, well, we're waiting for the decision. This is the plummest thing you've ever seen.
I mean, okay, and even if you give the credit to, not credit, benefit for the doubt, that he took a moment to Bairstow. Roy at the other end must have seen yes, that's taking out all three.
Yeah, and of course Roy was then given out when he had it
exactly.
and couldn't review it.
Telling his own story.
I think Bairstow must take an even bigger share of the blame. Because I think Bairstow pretty much immediately just said review without recourse to Roy.
Almost because it's me.
Yeah.
This team method is no problem.
Now Bairstow's clearly got a chip.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not on his shoulder, so he's well balanced.
I don't mind anybody who has a go at Michael Hall, to be fair.
Sorry?
I don't mind anybody who has a go at Michael Hall,
Right.
to be fair.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike Hall, but he is terribly opinionated. You can't really complain that people give it practice.
No, you're right there. He is usually more often than not right. So,
I'm not sure he is. He's wrong when John control, badly wrong.
Well, he thinks that the right thing to do is to back first today, so we shall see when the... Oh, it's... Yeah, I think it's coming.
Well, this is me on review. I reckon it might be high. Can you review it? Yes, he is. I think this could be close to being too high.
I think you come down to the corner of my eye, so... Okay delivery. Nice action. Good to see what we had a bit of a period where he just wasn't on top form, but he's back. No, you're right, it could be height. It was, yeah, I mean it should be alright, but if it isn't, you'll be right about why not.
Ground for day 2 of Warwickshire and Essex. Please welcome your umpires, Steve O'Shaughnessy and Paul Baldwin.
You start off?
Yeah, well, I'm just giving you a review report.
Yeah, brilliant. Ooh, I think it's over the top. Unless it's
Oh,
on
he
my...
is missing, yeah. He is missing.
Yeah.
Right. 403 from...
Are you taking the equipment off?
Well, I'd like to see the proper scoreboard when I'm commentating. I thought we got right flick to the end of the over. It's 403 for the scoreboard and 004 for the cricket.
Well, good morning and welcome to day 2 of this First Division County Championship match between Essex and Warwickshire from the Cloudfm County Ground in Chelmsford. And it was all neat and tidy yesterday, and as much as Essex were bowled out for 245 with 2.5 of the scheduled overs to go in the day, which means they lose them between innings. And so the umpire's already out there. The 13 players are just following, and the openers haven't come up on the board yet as to who the openers are. There are a lot of names that are new to us. Banks and Rhodes. Thanks very much, Clive. My name's Dick Davies. Clive Eakin will join me in 5 minutes or so, and Paul Newton is also on the team today, and you'll hear his dulcet tones in about half an hour's time. So, yeah, number 35 is indeed Will Rhodes, formerly of these parts as a bowler. And indeed, yesterday he took 5 for 37. 5 for 17. Good grief, 5 for 17. And at one stage, well, I can remember 4 for 6. But now he's seen very much as predominantly an opening batsman. Left-handed. And he'll be facing up to Peter Siddle from the Hayes Close end. We started 4 minutes before 11 o'clock yesterday. Looks as if we're going to start more or less on time today. It says 10:59 according to the scoreboard. And Peter Siddle is on his way. Moves in and bowls the left-handed Rhodes, who plays out to mid-on, where it's fielded by Aaron Beard. The clock now says 11 o'clock, so nothing untoward happened just before the witching hour. And we recognise the fact that we probably haven't got too many listeners today. There is a counter-attraction at headquarters in NW8, where New Zealand are batting. We'll keep more than half an eye on that as well. Although obviously, if people are listening to us, then they're quite capable of watching or listening to the test match as well. Not test match, the one-day final. That's just played back to Siddle. No addition to the score. Not as big a crowd as yesterday. They might come in later. And I know there's a counter-attraction, but Essex fans are very loyal to their county. And that's outside the off stump, goes through the wicketkeeper Wheater. And such is county cricket followers' allegiance to their clubs, that given the choice, they would probably favour their counties winning rather than England today. Often the same in football and indeed in rugby. You know, the club connection is obviously much stronger than the international connection. As Siddle moves in and bowls, and that's played out down backward of square on the offside, fielded by Nick Brown. Warwickshire open their account, and it brings the right-handed Liam Banks down to the business end. I think it might be his first team debut. Clive will confirm or deny that shortly. Essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk if you care to communicate with us, and even more than ever we'd like you to, really, if you're listening, because we're not confident that we've got too many listeners today for other and obvious reasons. And Siddle moves in now and bowls to Banks, who plays pleasantly enough out to mid-off, where it's fielded by Ryan Tenduscarter, the Essex captain. Clive has done his update for his station in the Midlands and moves in beside me. And I'm just about to do an update. And yesterday ended neatly and tidily, with Essex being bowled out for 2:45, a few minutes before the scheduled close anyway. So Warwickshire have just started to bat. We're still in the first innings, and they have 2 to their name. Will Rhodes, formerly of, he was here at Essex for on loan for part of 2016. He has a single to his name. Liam Banks has a single to his name. And Essex will be keen to try and justify the relatively low score when they, at one stage, were 157 for 2. They really should have got an awful lot more than fewer than 70 added to for those last few wickets, last 8 wickets indeed. So Warwickshire, we've just completed the first over now, and in reply to Essex's 2:45, they're 2 without loss. And good morning, Clive.
Good morning.
Sorry.
Where am I?
Yep, that's it. The mic's on. The volume's turned up. Yep, we're in business.
Can you hear me? Can you? I can't hear me. Oh, I know why. Someone's unplugged me.
Oh, that would account
Anyone would
for
think
it.
you didn't want to hear from me.
Sorry, I realised I unplugged that when I sent my interview down last night. Forgot to plug it back in again. Right, we're all present and correct. And it's going to be Matt Quinn to bowl the second over of the day from the River End. Moves in now and bowls, and that's played out into colours a little aerially, and he's only a short fella, didn't really get completely over the top of the bounce, and but it was safely enough as it happened. Picks up 2 runs out into the covers.
This is a massive test for Warwickshire today. I think they did very well to bowl Essex out for 245, but I think they'll do extremely well to match that.
Do you?
Or even get ahead. I do.
That's interesting.
You've got a strong Essex attack. This ground, I know the pitch, there wasn't a huge amount yesterday, but I mean on this ground generally, 245 doesn't too bad a score this season, does it?
Oh no, Quinn moves in and bowls, and that's outside the off stump. It goes through to the keeper, and yeah, both sides probably generally seem to be stronger in the bowling department than the batting department.
I mean, you have to look at Warwickshire's batting. So you've got young Liam Banks here opening the batting, promoted to open the batting. He's played a few games in the middle order this season, and he's looked okay without actually making big scores. You've got Rob Yates, who is a rising talent. I think he's going to be a big star of the future, but he's still only a kid. And Dan Mosley as well making his debut. Michael Burgess making his county debut.
As Quinn moves in again outside the off stump, allowed to go through to the keeper, who takes it round by his bootlaces.
To lose Will Rose and Sam Hain does really stretch Warwickshire, I think. Just looking at Liam, he did make a half century for the second 11 in their last game, so he's got a few runs there. In fact, he made a century the game before, so he has been making runs for the second 11, but I think 27 was his highest score for the first 11 in his spell in the team earlier in the season.
Quinn to Banks, who again goes forward, lifts the bat out of the way, and it goes through to the keeper. Has 3 slips in a gully, keeping him immediate company. Then there's Nick Brown at point. The skipper Ryan Tender-Scarter at mid-off, so that's 6 on the offside, and the conventional onside field with a mid-on, a mid-wicket, and a long leg.
I suppose Warwickshire would be saying to Liam Banks, if you don't make a big score, if you can last a good hour or so.
Quinn moves in and bowls to the right-handed Banks, who goes forward yet again, more or less a carbon copy of the previous delivery outside the off stump, lifted his bat out of the way.
I mean, he's got a career best of 29. If he could get that again, and Will Rhodes still be at the other end and get Warwickshire off to some sort of start, he'd probably settle for that.
Yes. So, as I say, not as big a crowd today as yesterday.
I wonder why.
Well, I think a lot will come in later. It is Sunday. You get up late. You have a long, lazy breakfast. I'm not convinced that from those who had actually attend the game, the final is it will keep them away. There are plenty of other ways they can keep across what the score is. Anyway, we'll find out. That's just played out quietly. End of the over, and Warwickshire, in reply to Essex, is 245, a 4 without loss.
It is a first time in 27 years of being able to watch England in a World Cup final. I think the members, I wouldn't imagine, will be too put off, because of course they can nip into the bar to watch it. I do think the £5 charge they put on the non-members to be allowed to use the members' areas and watch the game, I slightly question that. I think that might just put some off from looking at the sort of public seats, the non-members' seats. They are pretty empty.
They are, really.
And I'm not sure. I'm not a marketing man, but I'm not sure I would have gone down that road.
Siddle in bowls, Rhodes gets behind that and just plays it back to the bowler.
I'd have been tempted to do the direct opposite and encourage the paying public to come in by saying, for this one day only, you can use the members' facilities, you can watch the World Cup match while watching the county game as well, and try and make create an incentive for people to come. But there we are.
We've been exhorted, encouraged to say, which we're quite happy to do, I hasten to add. Come back to that after this delivery, which is played just forward of square but backward of Rishi Patel at the mid-wicket area, and they go through for 2 comfortable runs into mid-wicket. That theoretically it covers a multitude of people. Anybody who are associated with any of the cricket clubs in the county, who themselves have associations with any Essex player, are entitled to come in for nothing today.
Are they? Ah.
We encourage the link between club and county, and since 9 of the Essex side today have played club cricket in Essex, what a good catch! No, it's not, beg your pardon. What a good bit of fielding. It must have bounced just in front of Lawrence in the gully. Sorry to have raised alarms or excitement, depending on whether you're a Warwickshire supporter or an Essex supporter. But it was nonetheless a good bit of fielding, but it had bounced just in front of Lawrence in the gully.
It's because he took it so cleanly. It
was,
looked like
wasn't
a
it?
catch.
Yes.
It was a very good stop, as you say.
Yes.
It bounced just in front of him, and that's what made it look like a catch. But Will Rhodes survives.
New Zealand 25 without loss, and Siddle moves in, bowls, and that's just. We turned the batsman round a little bit, but he played it confidently and competently enough in the end. It just trickled back down the 20-odd yards, picked up by Aaron Beard at mid-on.
I haven't been able to raise anything on the England Lions scorecard yet. I think it would be just check whether all the players are playing. I think it would be particularly unfortunate if some of them aren't. I don't know how big a score they picked in the end.
Siddle round the wicket to the left-handed Rhodes, goes back and then transfers his weight, but either way lifts his bat eventually out of the way of the ball, and having made sure it's in the gloves of the wicketkeeper, therefore is a dead ball, he goes down the wicket to have a cursory glance, but it doesn't really do any elaborate gardening.
One thing that will be different, I think, with the Warwickshire innings and the Essex innings. I don't think Warwickshire worry too much if they're not scoring runs quickly.
No. Appeal against Rhodes, but it doesn't meet with the approval of the umpire. So the end of the third over of the Warwickshire innings, and there's 6 without loss.
Yeah, troubling over for Will Rhodes. He survived the edge, which bounced just short, which is a symptom perhaps of a slowish pitch. And then the LBW shut off. My impression from here was he might just have got outside off stump by the time he was trying to work that onto the leg side, but nonetheless it was a good shout. But I mean, Essex lost wickets yesterday trying to play attacking shots. I think Warwickshire will probably say if they're 205 for 5 at the close of play, it might bore everyone to tears, but they won't be too unhappy with that, and I think they'll play that way.
Yeah. Quinn moves in now. Bowls. And played solidly and correctly by Liam Banks. I interviewed the, I'm not sure if he's assistant coach or bowling coach, I suppose really they amount to one and the same thing, Andre Nell for Essex last night, and he clearly wasn't impressed with the dismissals of some of the Essex batsmen who did rather give their wickets away. No names, but there were some that certainly have enough experience to have played far better shots than they did. One of them a Knight of the Realm, but I won't say who. As Quinn moves in and bowls, so that's again played solidly, just trickles forward.
Well, of course, that one came out of the blue as well. At that
did,
point,
didn't it?
So Essex were looking very, very comfortable. 152 for 2. Yes, they lost a couple of fairly early wickets, but with Lawrence and Cook there, they were looking very comfortable. And then Cook, I did ask Will Rhodes last night when I interviewed him when he's talking to his grandchildren, and they ask him, "Grandpa, tell us again the day you got Alistair Cook out," what he was going to say. So I bowled him a bumper and hit his gloves.
Yeah,
that's somewhat embellishing it, however.
Just a bit, but the grandchildren will never know. Sun shining brightly. We've already looks weather-wise, but it's going to be a better day than yesterday. We didn't see very much sun at all yesterday as Quinn moves in, bowls. And that's outside the off stump, and bounced again before it reached the keeper. And Adam Wheater, who was one of those out to a fairly ignominious shot, holding out to Ollie Stone at mid-off. Well, I say holding out, from what I remember Stone did have to reach above his head for it, but it was a fairly regulation catch.
Yeah.
And Quinn wearing 94 for reasons best known to him. Oh, I suppose he could only be 23.
I was going to say, was he born in 94?
Yeah, could well be. That's a super looking shot, but only played straight to Ryan Tenders-Carter at mid-off, but it came out of the middle of the bat. It would certainly been 4 if it hadn't gone to Tenders-Carter.
Yes, that all frustrated Banks.
Yeah.
Hitting that, oh, that's a good shot, I think someone's here. But they do say, I don't know if it's just someone was telling me, that the modern player is not as good as players used to be at actually placing the ball and finding gaps in the field. I've heard that suggested.
Yeah, could be. And that's short of the lengths and cracked away and well fielded at cover point, or point really, absolutely square with the wicket by Nick Brown, diving away to his right, or moving away to his right, not diving. But there again, two good shots that have come out of the middle of the bat, and hasn't picked up a run for either of them. He will feel a little frustrated.
He will. But that conversation was probably, I mean, obviously Brian Lara was a one-off, but I was just talking to someone about the fact that Brian Lara's strength was he could find the gap with every shot.
And that's played pleasantly out into the covers. And so yeah, Banks has looked very good. I don't think he scored, no, it's still 6, so it was a maiden over, but every shot he played came out of the middle of the bat. So he looks assured and confident. And Warwickshire still 6 without loss.
Yeah, man, I say he got a century and a half century last year's second 11 games. I'm sure he'd be 8 not out now, but at the end of that, it would have been a second 11 match. But yeah, just going back to Lara, his ability to, he could almost draw a line when he was going to play the shot. He was very precise at the direction his shots went, and he could find the gap every time. Whereas, and I was talking to, I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but somebody was saying that maybe the modern day player, because there's more emphasis on the force of the shot, and particularly one-day cricket and what have you, then maybe the skill of placing it has perhaps receded a little bit. The fielding's probably improved as well, in fairness.
I think the outfielding has improved. I'm not convinced the slip fielding has, because with there being so much one-day cricket, then you don't have your specialist slip fielders that you used to have. I mean, going back a long way, somebody like Colin Cowdrey's probably spent his whole career at first slip, whereas now you can field at first slip or anywhere in the slips in a championship match, and then when it comes to various versions of the one-day cricket, you can find yourself anywhere. So I'm not convinced the slip fielding is as good as it used to be, because there are no real specialists. And it's Siddle moving in. The sun's shining very pleasantly now, and that's played also out of the middle of the bat. So nothing much to encourage the bowlers so far, really. Not much movement either in the air or off the wicket.
I hear what you're saying. One or two specials. I'll give you Ricky Clark. I think possibly the finest slipper in the country.
Yep. Oh yes, I mean, even if the overall standard has gone down, still somebody's going to be better than all the rest.
Warwickshire have struggled a little bit in the slip department this season. Not in past seasons, but this season they have put a few down in the slip corner. Let me just put one down.
As Siddle moves in again and bowls. Loud appeal for LBW. This time it does meet with the approval of the umpire, and Warwickshire lose their first wicket. They are 6 without loss, and Rhodes LBW to Siddle for 3.
Well, that's a massive blow. They really needed Rhodes to score big. Big responsibility on him with so many young players around him. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened. He's had a slightly up and down season with the bat. But well done, Peter Siddle. And Warwickshire already under pressure. I think they'll do very well to get anywhere near the 240, I must admit. 245.
Yes, so, well, it'll be interesting to see who comes in number 3, because...
It will be Rob Yates, and I think that's why Rob Yates hasn't opened, is because he's done so well at number 3.
Oh, right.
They probably felt they wanted to keep him there. He is a battler, Rob Yates, and it's taken a while to turn them into scores. He got a 49 at York and then a 48 in his next match, but then did get his maiden first-class half-century against Hampshire when he made 91. So he's shown some good battling qualities. It's just turning those into scores that's the next challenge for him, and he's beginning to get there, but a really difficult situation here for him.
Well, Warwickshire have taken a wicket in the World Cup. Guptill's out LBW to Wokes for 19. Guptill hasn't had a very successful time in this World Cup campaign, apart from a superb run out when they played Australia, which was excellent to see. Can't remember who he ran out now. Was it Warner? I think it was.
Can't remember.
So one left-hander is replaced by another as Rob Yates takes his guard from the umpire. And 4 balls of the over remain. And it's Siddle bowling in brightish sunshine from the Hayes Close end round the wicket. And it could be. Had the ball hit the wicket, it would have been out by a long, long way, because Yates just played it gently on the onside, and Rishi Patel had a lot of ground to cover, but did it quickly, shied at the stumps, and really, if it had been on the television, then Liam Banks wouldn't have even been in the frame, I don't think. But we can't tell by how much it missed the stumps, and it doesn't really matter whether it missed by an inch or a yard. The result's the same. So Yates is underway. He gets a single, albeit a slightly precarious one.
Well, that was a sign perhaps of the nerves and anxiety there is there for this young Warwickshire side. They've had 5 batters run out, or
really?
5 occasions they've had a batter run out. Poor old Tim Ambrose has been on the end of 3 of them. But 5 run-outs against them this season, and that could easily have been number 6.
Yes, it could, yes. I mean, had it hit the stumps, there's no doubt that Banks would be on his way back to the pavilion now. Anyway, he's not. Instead, he's facing up to Siddle, right arm over the wicket. And he gets over the top of the bounce, and that's a good-looking shot, going out towards the mid-wicket boundary. I don't think it'll quite get there. Aaron Beard will haul it in, and they go through for... I was looking at the 3, thanks Clive. Yes, I was looking at the ball rather than the batsman. 3 runs.
Well, nice shot, nice controlled shot to the short ball. Played it straight down into the gap. That'll make him feel a bit better, Liam Banks.
Yep, certainly will.
Well, these two, I'm sure, will have batted together in second 11 cricket a fair bit. So, despite that near run out, they should have a decent understanding.
As Siddle moves in, bowls to Yates, and further runs here, probably a couple just backward of square on the onside, as again it's Rishi Patel in pursuit, and they do go through for 2 comfortable runs. So interesting over. Dot wicket 132, which means there's 1 delivery to come after 22 minutes play roughly. Warwickshire 10 for 1. The 1 being Will Rhodes, LBW to Siddle for 3. And it's the experienced Australian bowling now from the far end as we look at it. And that's played solidly. Trickles out to mid-on. End of the over. Warwickshire 12 for 1.
Yes, I hope Peter Siddle's not wearing the number of the year he was born, otherwise he's almost as old as me. But obviously a very good bowler, Peter Siddle, a real test for the Warwickshire batter. They had Will Rhodes in a fair amount of trouble. 1 LBW shout turned down, probably correctly, but it looked a good shout. 1 edge, which was just short of the slits, and umpire just measuring Rob Yates' bat here. It's a funny element of the modern game, isn't it? This goes on, but I haven't seen any Warwickshire player. That has happened, I believe, in other counties, but I haven't seen any Warwickshire players told to change their bats as of yet, but I believe it has happened elsewhere. New regulations about how much wood you can have on your bat.
And yet, when a batsman changes his bat in mid-innings, which happens not infrequently, I've never ever seen the umpire then check the new bat. That's outside the off stump, goes through to the keeper. We have had some emails already, excellent. And the grumbler. I've just pressed the wrong part of the screen. Right. Hi chaps, obviously this game is taking a back seat today in comparison to the World Cup final. I noticed that the Russian cricket Twitter feed replied to Essex questioning why we are playing today.
Well, it's a good question. The Russian cricket feed's spot on.
And that's worked out on the onside to Patel, no addition to the score.
I was saying this yesterday, you never get this in any other sport. World Cup final in this country, and you're playing other domestic sports on the same day. It wouldn't happen in any other sport.
He says it seems that the issue is clearer seen from Moscow than from the ECB offices at Lords. Yes. My question, who is scoring the game while Tony Choate is scoring the World Cup final? Paul Parkinson, normally the second team scorer. And presumably the first team scorer in waiting when Tony Choate calls it a day. Not that there's any indication that he will, and no need for him to. He still does a superb job, otherwise he wouldn't have been chosen to do the World Cup final. I don't know. I don't know if you apply. 2 runs there out in the offside. I don't know if they put names in a hat, or you apply, or ECB in its sort of imperial manner just sort of suddenly says, oi, you will do the final.
I think at most grounds it tends to be whoever's a normal county scorer. So Mel Smith did the ones at Edgeworth, but I suppose Lords is a bit different maybe in that respect. But certainly Mel Smith did all the matches at Edgeworth and the Warwickshire scorer.
As next livery is played again solidly by Liam Banks.
Famously, Dermot Reeves' mum was drafted, and that was abroad, wasn't it, during one of your winter tour? When,
who did it?
Dermot Reeves' mum.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember the full circumstances, but they were a scorer down for a game in the winter and a game somewhere, and so she stepped in.
So, Quinn to continue from this, the river end, to bowl to Liam Banks. And, he's bowled him round his legs, the leg stump knocked back, trying to deflect it down to fine leg probably. Moved across too far, leg stump knocked back, Warwickshire 14 for 2.
Disappointing for Liam Banks again. He's played some good shots while he's been out there, and you think he's looking the part. It was asking an awful lot from him today, I must say, to come and open the batting, and well, he's almost seen the first half hour out, but Warwickshire in deep trouble already.
Banks out for 8. Yes, and he's well, completely endorsed what you said, because when he was there, okay, he only got 8 to his name, but he looked really solid and played some good shots. Unfortunately, from his point of view, too many of them straight to the fielders, but most of the time he was hitting the ball out of the middle of the bat, so I would say from that brief experience that he certainly looks extremely promising.
Yeah, he's just got to learn to well, he obviously needs a bit more under his belt, learn to bat out a bit longer, make runs. Now here's a guy who's under pressure, Adam Hose. He played 1 outstanding innings this season, a century against Nottinghamshire. Other than that, he struggled, and some debate as to whether he should even be in the team. Some would argue that going for Thompson would have been a better choice in this game, because he's struggled, Adam Hose, but here's an opportunity for him to cement his place. He's predominantly been a white ball player. He played very little red ball cricket at Somerset, and he was still, early in the season, he was still in single figures for the number of first class games he played. I think he's into double figures now, but not much. But he needs runs, and Warwickshire need him to get runs.
A tall, solidly built right-handed batsman taking guard from the umpire. Thanks, Linda and Steve, for your email, which I'll read out very shortly. Just I'm due off air in another 2 or 3 minutes time, probably one more over, and then I'll take my leave. As Quinn moves in now to bowl to Adam Hose, who goes forward and beat him outside the off stump, and the end of a very successful over. So Quinn has 1, and so does Siddle. Linda and Steve say, just to let you know that we are listening, and thank you as ever for the excellent commentary. Keeping an eye on the World Cup on free-to-air television, but only until around 2 o'clock, as we're going away for the night and meeting friends. Might log on to listen again while we are getting ready for dinner, if it's not too prompt to finish. All good wishes, Linda and Steve. All right, thanks Linda and Steve very much. Always good to hear from you as ever. And I think we had one more email which I'll have time to read before I make way for my colleague. And so Warwickshire 14 for 2, in reply to Essex is 2:45. Istanbul Steve says, greetings from Istanbul, looking forward to a good day's play and great day for cricket. We'll be following Chelmsford while some other match to the west goes on. Well, alright, able to flick over periodically to headquarters Yeah, keep up the good work. Cheers. Thanks, Steve, as ever, very much. Oh, and that had Yates a little bit beaten, well, more than a little bit beaten. He pushed forward, a bit of bat, a bit of pad, and he's still there. And Chris has emailed us. Hello again, chaps. I see that Matt Coles has extended his loan period at Northants, which probably means he won't play any 2020 cricket for Essex this season, as this is the main format that he was signed for. I would think, have we seen the last of him at Chelmsford? What a good point. I didn't know he'd extended his loan at Northants, and yeah, well, I agree with every word and the accompanying thoughts that go with it. So thanks, Chris. That was his second email, because that's just played defensively, no addition to the score. But he also sent one entitled Today. Yeah, I'm listening to and watching World Cup final on television. I'll be at Chelmsford tomorrow though. Excellent stuff, look forward to seeing you. I've got to sort out the car first. I've got a slow puncture, but having sorted that out first thing, I'll come up later. I'm not working, but on busman's holiday. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Chris. Peter Sidley. Oh, and well, Yates was lured into playing a bit of a rash shot there. Tried to play it off the end of his nose almost, and he could have got an edge for all that he knew, and went through to wicketkeeper Wheater, but not a shot totally under control by any means, which is a bit of an understatement. So Essex have every reason to be optimistic at the moment, and although I thought overnight, well, I don't mean I lay awake thinking about it, but I mean that 245 wasn't a particularly good score. I'm inclined to go along with Clive's assessment now that it may prove to be a really challenging total, as that's played back to Peter Siddle. No addition to the score of 14 for 2, with one delivery of the over remaining, and then I will take my leave and Paul Newton will come in for the first day. Paul Newton, who stepped into the breach because it was David Brett due to be here today, but David Brett, being David Brett, suddenly decided he was going to go to the World Cup final.
It's got to be a ban. It's got to be a...
I said, have you got tickets?
He said, that.
Yes. I said, have you got a ticket? And that's just allowed to go through to the keeper. And he said, no, you can always get tickets for these sort of events if you don't mind paying through the nose. Well, that says
well,
everything.
Well, it would have done, from according to reports.
Yes. So at the end of the over, and Warwickshire are 14 for 2. And after a few more words from Clive, he'll be joined by Paul Newton.
Yeah, well, goodness, it was always going to be tough for Warwickshire, and it's tough now, but they need to try and get a partnership. Rob Yates is certainly a battler. For some reason it's tricky finding out what's going on in the England Lions game. I just wanted to check the team. It would be just adding insult to injury if it turned out that Sam Hames, say, wasn't actually playing in the 11. I assume he is, but can't find any detail of it at the moment. Anyway, it's Quinn into bowl. That's left by Adam Hose. Raises his bat out of the way. It's left, no run. I'm slightly worried because I noticed Paul and I won't mention which one, but we have the same laptop, so the chances of one of us taking the wrong one home today is probably fairly high.
Yes, we'll have to watch that one. Mine doesn't work all that well, so that will be the determining factor in my stealing yours.
It's one from Quinn. Oh, that was... We saw one or two do that actually from the other end. Yes, so that seemed to spit up a little bit at Hose, and he lifted his glove off the bat as if the ball either hit the glove or came close to it.
Thought he played it well.
Kept it down, didn't he?
Yep, did very well there. That would have got lesser men out. Just to update, New Zealand 35 for 1 and 10.1 with Chris Wokes with the wicket. Guptill LBW for 19.
New Zealand don't need that many to defend, do they? They're a good, strong attack.
Good point.
Interesting game. Anyway, Quinn, wearing number 94 on his back, as we've mentioned, comes into bowl. That's left. That's a bit of carry, but well wide. No need for Hose to play at that one.
And just on that subject you brought up there, Clive, England in a funny sort of way, for me, do better against sides where they know they've got to be at their very best to beat them. I know they did lose 1 to Australia, but they walloped them the other day. They've beaten India. But on another hand, Pakistan, they've beaten them 4-0 in a series, but then lost to them. Sri Lanka, everyone was beating them, and it's as if they need more pressure rather than to suffer from pressure.
Yeah, certainly a pressure of expectation today. This next one is left again. It's a good leave. It was close to that one from Quinn, but still Hose was within his rights to let it go. So not too many in the public paying areas today. The membership turnout looks to be respectable. But, of course, maybe a lot of the paying public have paid their £5 sitting in the members areas where they can watch the final unfold. And this one, oh, he's played a miss at that one, Hose. That was a good delivery, drifting away from Quinn, and Hose playing forward to it, trying to drive at it. He's fortunate that he missed it completely.
We've seen very little of Matt Quinn. First of all, he's had 4 or 5 stress fractures of the back to recover from, and secondly, by the time he'd sat his time out, the likes of Sam Cook and Aaron Beard had come in. But one great asset that Quinn has is just what he demonstrated there. He's very good at moving the ball away from the right-hand batsman.
Comes in again to bowl the Hose, and again Hose plays and misses. One that was quite low, taken low by the wicket-keeper, so good over from Quinn. Hose survives it. Warwickshire is stuck on 14 for 2 after 7 or 8 overs, 8 overs I think. And Hose and Yates have a chat. Interestingly, Somerset could well be restricted to 1 bowling point. They've got a 4th wicket against Yorkshire. They've got 6.5 overs to go to try and get a couple more to get a 2nd bowling point. Yorkshire 305 for 4, but I think Somerset will find it difficult to win that match. Could be a real opportunity for Essex here.
No, you're quite right. Just looking to see if that's the night watchman that has gone there. Indeed it is. Kohler Cadmore was 98 not out. Shaw, the night watchman, bowled by Grunewald for 6. Harry Brooks come to the crease, 309 for 4 now.
Siddle into bowl, and that's a bouncer, which Yates just evades comfortably. And the one at the bottom, where Surrey, who are just above Warwickshire by just a point or 2, and Notts, who started this round of matches 38 points adrift of them. Notts still in a reasonable position. They haven't lost a wicket today, 35 for 1, having bowled Surrey out for 240 at Trent Bridge. It's certainly a must-win game for Nottinghamshire, but if they do win it, it will make teams like Surrey and Warwickshire nervous.
Yes, Surrey have really struggled, haven't they? They've had lots of injuries and test calls, but even so.
Siddle round the wicket to bowl, and that's pushed into a gap by Yates. He'll get a single, gets Warwickshire off the 14. They're 15 for 2. Well, of course, I know when Essex did the opposite, that was fairly rare. I think they were only the 2nd county to win the championship the year after being promoted. But several counties have been relegated the year after they've won the championship. Middlesex were relegated, don't we know? And who else was relegated? Nottinghamshire were relegated after winning the championship. Yorkshire were relegated after winning the championship. Lancashire as well. I think it's happened at least 4 times.
No, you're right. Lancashire won it for the first time since about 1934.
That's right.
In 2011, but were then relegated the next year.
Yeah, indeed. So it does happen. Siddle bowls, and that's going down the leg side, and a bit of a he wafted it from Hose. He's looking a bit anxious at the moment, as well he might. There's no run. I suppose it will get a little easier from next season. It's still, or go back to 2 downs, only 1 down this season. But that's because next season it's going to be 10 teams and 2 relegation places, which it was originally, well, it was originally 3 out of 9 briefly, wasn't it? Then it was 2 out of 9, and then it was 2 out of 8, which certainly Warwickshire argue that's 25% of the division. That's too many. So now it'll be 2 out of 10. It'll be relegated in future. That's left. There's no run, so that might make it a little easier to survive in the division?
Yes, I think you're right. Sort of very strange goings on in Division 2 this season. Among the counties who would have been fancied to get one of the 3 promotion places, Middlesex, although they're doing well at the moment against Glamorgan, but they were plumb bottom as recently as about 10 days ago. You've got Sussex, whose batting collapses unaccountably on frequent occasions.
Siddle over the wicket, and that's solidly defended by Hose. No run.
Yes, Hose plays with more time to spare than other batsmen we've seen today. I mean, he's been going very well. He's got some good scores, and I think he's basically a good player.
Yeah, he struggled this season, to be fair. He's had that one, the one century against Nottinghamshire, which is probably why he's kept his place in the team, because other than that, in red ball cricket he has struggled. But as I was saying earlier, he hasn't played a great deal of red ball cricket. Before this season he played very, very little, just a handful of matches. So it's tough for him as well. Siddle into bowl, and he gets behind that, pushes out to the offside. There's no run. He did prove against Nottinghamshire at Edgbaston that he can do it, but Warwickshire desperately need a partnership, need a performance from him now. Really, in the context of this game, even though it's a million miles off at the moment, Warwickshire need to get ahead on first innings, I would suggest, to have a decent chance of winning this game.
I think you're right there, Clive, because whenever I talk to the Essex head coach, Anthony McGrath, Essex frequently haven't made that many runs here. It's not been easy making runs at Chelmsford, but his retort is always, and he does have a very good point, so far Essex are 5 out of 5 on this ground this season, and he makes the point, well, as long as the Essex batsmen, however few they get, still score more than the opposition, he's not overly worried, and he will frequently assess a game after day one and say, I think it's all going to depend on first innings, and I think you're right. You know, any sort of significant first innings lead for either side, I think is going to count for plenty.
Well, Quinn in, 3 slips and a gully, or is it 4 slips? That's going down the leg side, and Yates has a little look at it, but doesn't really play at it. Notts have lost their second wicket, by the way. They're 36 for 2 against Surrey. It would make Warwickshire more comfortable if they heard Notts were going to lose that one, but still can't get much on the England Lions, strangely, which is slightly frustrating. In comes Quinn. That's a short delivery, and it's well played by Yates. He's pulled that down, so it hits the ground and rolls away for 4 through mid-wicket. Good stuff from Yates, who did make 91 in the last match against Hampshire. So he's growing all the time in terms of experience and stature, and one has to be careful not to put too much on a young player, but I have to say he does look a very, very big prospect.
Yeah, that was a lovely shot. Quinn here, the plus side is he's good at moving the ball away from the right-handers, but the downside, he does struggle to adjust his line to the left-hander, which he certainly showed so far this over.
And that one is a decent enough line. It's well defended by Yates for no run.
We've heard from Michael Biswell, emailing us at essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk. Good morning, says Michael. There are some loyal listeners, and I haven't really followed the World Cup to any extent. Check the results and that's about it. Some years ago I saw a short film of Jack Hobbs demonstrating strokes, and the bat he used was so light, almost a narrow spoon at end, he would have been able to place the ball precisely where modern players have these huge weighty bats. We'll come back to that.
That's play to mid-on, there's no run.
He goes on to have these huge weighty bludgeoners with little control once they're committed. We have had some rain this morning, which is most welcome, as my 2 cisternas are almost empty. We have a drought in this region for over a year with just occasional showers. I live off the grid using solar panels and batteries, rainwater, septic tank and gas bottles, so we are dependent upon nature for its bounty. Thank you very much, Michael.
So Quinn in. That's played to mid-on for no run by Yates. I suppose you could say Warwickshire steady the ship a little bit. Well, there's lost of 2 wickets, not in terms of runs particularly, but 19 for 2. Try and build partnerships, at least with it being 240, one really good partnership we'll put them in with a chance of getting somewhere towards that.
Yeah, because the Essex innings, 116 for the third wicket between Cook and Lawrence, but then the second highest standard of the whole innings was the last one, which put on 34. And you're right, if Warwickshire can match that big partnership that Essex had, or at the very least have several full partnerships, but that's what it's all about. It's about two guys getting in there and staying in there. Batting does get easier once you can establish yourself.
Third slip has moved to a shortish mid-wicket position. That's driven to mid-on for no run. End of the over. Warwickshire may well regret that last wicket partnership because it shouldn't have happened. They put down 2 chances towards the end of the Essex innings, having fielded pretty well up to then. Put down 2 chances and probably should have had Essex out for 210, 220, and they might yet regret those extra runs that were allowed to be accrued at the bottom of the Essex innings.
Yeah, it does sort of change, or it did change the parameters of the game to a certain extent, by meaning that Essex in the end batted 3 sessions, and if you're only going to make 245, it's better if you take quite a while over it. Certainly if you get shot out in 2 sessions, as has often happened here at Chelmsford in recent times, then you are, I think, likely to be in trouble.
Siddle wasting no time before running in to bowl. 4 slips in place, and Hose with a bit of a leading edge, looking to play that through long on, ends up playing it to mid-off for no run.
Steve Everett, Istanbul Steve, emails us again. Wonder how many at the ground today. Well, there's just a few hundred, really. In light of various factors, i.e. World Cup weekend games, is Championship too boring, etc., debate about attendance. Well, there's only an unusually poor crowd here because of the World Cup. Last Sunday it was absolutely packed, certainly in the members' areas. I'd have said there were at least 2,000, so that wouldn't be a worry. It is an exceptional day today.
Siddle comes into bowl, and that's played a bit on. I usually do a little check, because the attendances are quoted in Wisdom for Championship cricket, the total attendance, and I usually do a little bit of number crunching to see how crowds have gone. I haven't done it yet for last season, but the general trend for Championship crowds has been slightly up in recent years.
Definitely. Certainly Chelmsford, no grumbles at all. If it weren't for the rival attraction today, we would have a couple of thousand in, no doubt about it.
Well, we shouldn't be playing Championship cricket today. It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
However, we're here. Siddle comes into bowl, and that one bounces a bit on Hose. He does well to keep it down. Siddle not short of a word or two, as is his wont. It remains 19 for 2.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a World Cup and it's your World Cup, even though the final, who knows, it might have been Australia v India, but the point would be, surely you can schedule things in such a way that there isn't a direct clash.
Yeah.
Apparently not. But just one of the many vagaries.
In comes Siddle to bowl. Oh, that's a good delivery. It's gone past the outside edge, and that was travelling a bit. Wicketkeeper steps back as he takes that. Hose is beaten, not for the first time outside off stump, but he's still there. Crucially, he hasn't scored a run yet, but he is still there.
Steve continues, I'd like to suggest that having games on the same day as the World Cup final isn't such a bad thing, as you can't get more than 20,000 at Lord's. People who wish to follow can on terrestrial.
No, but the point is that people want to be at home watching the World Cup final, as Siddle comes into bowl, and it's played to mid-on. It's your big flagship world game, isn't it? And,
it should. And
it wouldn't happen in any, as I say, it wouldn't happen in any other sport.
For the record, Steve, the Lords holds 28,500, not just 20. But as Clive says, these things come round once every 4 years, and it should be the focus of the whole cricket world on that particular day. You carry on. The question is, would it prevent those who would come to Championship games going? Well, you say I'd suggest not. I can tell you it darn well does, because literally we've got about a fifth the number that were here last Sunday.
Siddle comes into bowl. Oh, that's edged down to 4 slip. I've got to be honest, I love Championship cricket, and if I was at home with not too much on, I would probably think of going to a day's Championship cricket if there was anywhere near me, but I wouldn't today, not with the World Cup on.
Yes, he continues. If you postpone County Championship for the World Cup, where do you draw the line? Ashes, other Test teams, etc., etc. What about lesser or upcoming sides if you were playing Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan? No, provide more variety. Add a variety of cost brackets. Two various thoughts. You say, well, you're perfectly entitled to your point of view, but for me it wouldn't be a case of postponing county cricket for the World Cup. If you're in charge of a timetable, you simply put things in the right slot so that where there shouldn't be a clash, there isn't one. You haven't had to postpone anything. You adjust. And my impression of the timetables that the ECB have come up with for many years now is they should be able to do an awful lot better. Simon Harmer's about to come into the attack.
I was about to say, Warwick Quinn's out of the attack, so good news for Warwickshire. It's just some bloke called Simon Harmer now who's going to trundle over his arm. I mean, it's only the World Cup final I'm talking about. To answer Stephen's point, I wouldn't suggest necessarily that you would. I mean, you can't obviously with an Ashes Test series. We've got 5 tests, you can't not have Championship cricket at the same time. I'm talking about specifically the World Cup final. Anyway, Harmer around the wicket, bowls, and nice and easy play back onto the onside by Yates. No problem at all. Warwickshire will play him for 4 days, I've no doubt. It's 19 for 2. Harmer, shirt hanging out, comes into bowl. Round the wicket, Yates very solidly defends it. Sritan Patel struggled really to make much impact with the ball yesterday, and in trying quite hard he let 1 or 2 drop short. If Warwickshire are panicking about losing this and being dragged into relegation, I've got some news for them. Harmer round the wicket, comes into bowl, and that's back to no run. Nottinghamshire now 40 for 4 against Surrey. So good old Notts are doing their best to hang on for that bottom place. Somerset are 1 wicket away from a second bowling point now with 3 overs to go. Harmer bowls, and he's more expansive shot from Yates along the ground to mid-on. He's got a slip and a short cover. Just 2 men round the bat, which suggests Harmer at the moment is not expecting to turn it square just yet. He comes into bowl, quicker ball, and that's played down into the ground by Yates, no run.
I'll be amazed if Notts don't go down. For me, Warwickshire shows something that Notts don't. However, whatever the difficulties for Warwickshire, they've shown fight, and Notts don't do.
And team spirit as well, which
exactly
seems to be lacking in Notts. They say not, but watching it, it does seem that way. That's played to mid-on for no run, so decent first over from Harmer, but well played by Yates. It is a maiden, 19 for 2 of 12. But I'm honestly, Warwickshire, we're quite happy if Harmer's figures end up being 30 overs, 30 maidens, none for none. They take that.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And you've just put your finger on how I think Warwickshire have played their way almost certainly out of trouble vis-a-vis relegation. 3 games had gone, 10 points on the board, certainties it would seem at that point to go down. The next game they came in and took an eternity. They batted about 5 sessions. But this is what you have to do. You have to battle your way out of trouble, avoid playing silly shots, be quite prepared to score 6 runs in an hour if necessary, and they've done the right thing. And because they then began to set a basis for at least getting a decent score on the board, they've managed to win 2 or 3 games, and certainly the way Notts are going, they haven't won any games, and I don't understand what's going on there, really. Peter Moore's one of the most accredited coaches on the county circuit, but they look in a mess.
Siddle continuing, Hose plays that into the ground, back to Siddle, who catches it on the bounce. The match you're, I think, alluding to was the home game against Notts, where I'm trying to check, I think it was 37 without loss in a whole session. That was fun to commentate on, I must say.
But having said that, you know, you're there to show various qualities that are needed to win cricket matches, and that was absolutely the right thing to do. Even if it does come down, you know, you say, well, that day we bowled the pants off the opposition, but that's much better than being bowled out in 1 session for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Siddle, 4 slips in place, and Hose pushes it out to point. There's no run. They did nearly win that game in the end. 2 things stopped them. Rain certainly played its part, but in fairness also, that was one occasion where at least a couple of Notts players showed a bit of fight and batted out for the draw, Ben Duckett in particular. So I've got some good players. You mentioned Ben Duckett and others. You just look at that team, and Admittedly, there's only 8 teams in the division, but you still think, well, they really shouldn't be struggling that much, should they?
No, I mean, they've had Stuart Broad for several games, and when I saw him play, to be fair, he was making a wholehearted effort. Joe Clark, a very talented player they've signed.
That's left by Hose. Yes, I don't know whether Joe Clark's been affected a little bit about things off the field.
Well, you're right, he has. Of course, another thing which I don't think ever works, Clive, is when you sort of do your transfer business as a job lot. And bring all sorts of people in at once, and where's the Nottinghamshire youth policy? I think would have to be a question.
19 for 2, Warwickshire. It really is a battle of struggle. They've lost those 2 wickets. They're trying to dig in. Siddle, who got one of the wickets. Bowles and Hose looking for what would be his first run, but it was never there. And the batters started running, then realised that was ridiculous and went back.
We've heard from Mike from Norfolk. Thanks very much, Mike. You say, I'm watching the World Cup with sound turned down and watching and listening to the Essex game. I must say this season the commentary team has excelled itself. You guys are really great. I'll leave out your next comment, but thank you very much for it. You go on to say, thank you for all your perceptive, intelligent and amusing commentary. Great to have you with us, Mike. Thank you very much.
Siddle, right arm over. Bowles or Hose, plays and misses at that. It has been an examination for Adam Hose. It's not his normal style. Normally he's a fairly attacking, quick scoring player. He's still stuck on naught. He's played and missed at 4 or 5 now, but he is still there.
Yes, credit to him for that. I mean, again, he's adopting the Warwickshire mantra, if you like, of heads down, really gutsing it out, and that is admirable. Not easy batting out there. Siddle doesn't give you much, and nor does Harmer. But they'll continue, I'm sure, to battle away.
Siddle into bowl, and this time Hose leaves it, lets it go. Survives. Another over takes off. 13 face, 19 for 2, Warwickshire. These two just battling for survival. They've been together now for some 13 overs, during which time they've added 5 runs. So no, what am I talking about? They've been together for, get it right, Clive. They've been together for 7 overs. Still, the point still stands. Been together for 7 overs. They've scored 5 runs in that time.
We have a longish email from David Groom. David, we're just about to have an over of spin. I'll come to your email during the next over from Peter Siddle, or there may be a bowling change because he's been bowling for the better part of an hour, but we'll come to you shortly. Thank you very much.
Fielder goes in about 3 pitches away at mid-wicket, and the attacking fielders slip and short cover, and a hint of an edge there, although along the ground from Yates as Harmer bowls, and goes to backward point for no run.
Yes, Simon Harmer does have this ability to put a side in a straitjacket effectively, and they're just trying to keep him out.
Yeah. Yates lets that one go. Quicker ball.
A little bit of turn there.
Yates, Harmer wearing his dark glasses, turns to bowl round the wicket, and Yates again very correct. Despite the oohs and ahs, he got that straight down into the ground past short cover.
Got a slip and a silly point, plus a shortish extra cover and a shortish mid-wicket.
Gives that a bit of air, and that's edge. He's going to get runs for it, but it's off an edge down towards third man. It's being chased. It will be pulled in, and you'll get 2 runs as Beard. It's good to see Beard on the field because he did take a knock to his left hammer batting. I know he's a right-hand bowler, but he did take a nasty-looking knock to his left hand while batting in that last wicket stand. But he's out there today.
Good fielder, actually, Beard. Made good ground to restrict that to 2 runs.
And Yates defends that. There's no run. That 2 runs took Warwickshire to 21 for 2. And Yates to 10. Harmer round the wicket. That's a forward defensive by Yates. I was a bit surprised that Yates didn't open the batting. I can imagine the thinking was he's learning all the time and getting better and better at number 3, so let's not disrupt that, let's keep him there. But I feel a bit for Liam Banks. It was asking a lot for him to open the batting. However, 21 for 2. and we've had 14 overs.
Rhodes, LBW Siddle 3, 6 for 1. Banks, Boldquin 8, 14 for 2. The scorecard so far. And Peter Siddle is coming out of the attack now. He's earned a rest, and Aaron Beard will come into it.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to vacate so I can do my report. So I know I'm a minute early. Dock it off my pay. We'll bring Dickie in.
Thank you very much, Clive. Clive Eakin there, and Beard preparing to bowl her. So, David, your email, you say, given that I have to choose between the Wimbledon men's final, the Formula One British Grand Prix, the Tour de France, the Cricket World Cup final, and ... I choose to watch the live stream and listen to your excellent commentary. Red ball cricket is so far ahead of any other sport, in my opinion. In fact, I find it hard to regard white ball shenanigans as real cricket. Put it down to age. After all, the first live first-class cricket I saw was at Fenners in 1957, and I remember it well. You go on further, and we'll come to that, but here's Beard on his way in from the Hayes close end as I'm joined by Dick Davis, and Beard bowls. Ooh, play and a miss there. Good start from Beard, who in his first appearance of the season took 4 wickets in the space of 13 deliveries here at Chelmsford. He doesn't get one there, 21 for 2. David continues. There was Walcott, Worrell, Ramadin, Sobers and the Great West Hall gliding in to deliver his rockets. For the students, Ted Dexter, Ozzie Wheatley, Gunasina. Great days with a brief escape from sixth form boredom. From our mountain in West Wales, I have ventured down to Cardiff, a 200-mile round trip, a few times to watch white ball, but it seems to me that the shorter the format, the more boring the game with fewer twists and turns and less subtlety or variety. Beard is in, bowls again, edge caught by Cook at slip, and that is the end of Hose, who spent so long playing himself in, and then I'm afraid played a rather rash shot at a ball short of the length. He could so easily have left that, and that rather betrays the good work and patience he'd shown earlier. And Cook took the catch low, even though actually the ball got up and was actually played from shoulder height. Should have left it, and Warwickshire are 21 for 3. Dick Davis is now with us. Dick.
Yes, I am, and well, things go from strength to strength from the Essex point of view. So Essex take their 3rd wicket, and well, Adam Hose never really got going, did he?
No. And having said that, the shame from his point of view is, it doesn't matter that he didn't get going, because Warwickshire's style has very much been to gut things out, be prepared to bat slowly, play proper 4-day cricket. I applaud them for all of that. But having faced, I don't know, I should think at least 20-odd deliveries and got his head down, he then played a shot that, I wasn't here yesterday, but by all accounts was rather reckless in the same way that Essex batsmen got out.
It was rather, yes, it belonged amongst some of those shots played yesterday, certainly.
You could almost say for Essex, sign him on. That's how we play. I mean, obviously Essex were in a great position at 157 for 2, and although I wasn't here to see it, I was watching the wickets tumble, or noticing the wickets tumble from a distance, and you've told me that Andre Nell, the Essex bowling coach whom you interviewed at the close of play, said only Simon Harmer wasn't out to a poor shot.
Yes, of the batsmen obviously lower down the order than so it's more forgiving, but yeah. So 21 for 3. Well, it is the first time it's occurred to me, always being cautious by nature, that Warwickshire's first target is 96, which they need to avoid the follow on, but I'm sure they'll reach that.
Beard is in, and bowls, and that goes away a long way, so much so in fact it was a wide. And just looking to see who the new batsman is here. It's Mosley, Dan Mosley, who's come in. Hasn't got a number on his back here, but the scoreboard tells me his number is indeed 80, which has gone up on the board. So Mosley's come in, 21 for 3. Just to finish off David's email, he finishes up, keep up the good work and long may the live stream continue, although I have to admit that I don't bother with 2020 at all, and only with 50 overs as a last resort. Beard's in, bowls again to Mosley, dabs this down nicely, pick up 2 runs here, chase for Darren Lawrence back to the vacant 3rd man boundary. They'll settle on 2 and the score goes up to 22 for 3. They've got up on the board there mysteriously because they've taken 2 there. Well, obviously 24 for 3. Of course, there was the wide I'd forgotten about, my mistake. So it is 24 for 3, and Mosley underway nicely. It was a deliberate dab down there past gully, and he's underway with a brace. So Beard preparing to bowl again. He may not look much of a bowler at first glance, Beard, but he's got a very healthy habit of taking wickets from an Essex point of view, Dick.
He has. I'm not quite sure what you mean by he doesn't look a bowler.
I didn't say he doesn't. I said he didn't look much of a bowler from the point of view you wouldn't see one ball from him and say, oh gosh, this bloke's going to be bad news. Oh, that's a good delivery. But there, you may well argue that he's just to prove me wrong, because he finds another good ball. It was left deliberately, but it didn't miss the off stump by much. Better judges than me have sort of said that, Robin Hobbs, for instance, said to me recently, he wouldn't mind me quoting him. We watched him take the 4 wickets the other day, and he has been around for 2 or 3 years, and Robin said, yeah, I didn't think he was going to make it, but he's bowled superbly. So I think he's greatly improved this season on what I've seen of him previously, as he comes in and bowls down leg side, nice tumbling stop by Wheater, and the score is on 24 for 3. What is very good about him is this habit of taking wickets, which is, of course, first and foremost what you want a bowler to do. What he needs to tighten up on a bit, he is wayward, he's bowled a wide in this over. That latest one was way down leg side, and if you actually look at his economy rate, it's on the high side. It tends to go 4s and 5s. If he can tighten up on that and keep taking the wickets, then he's going to be a terrific prospect, as the next ball's flicked off the pads straight to backward square leg. There is no run there. 24 for 3 at the end of a successful incursion into the attack for Aaron Beard. Rishi Patel, the fieldsman there. So Warwickshire, after 15 overs, replying to Essex's 245 all out, are 24 for 3, and they have to bear in mind, as Dick was saying, they need 96 to save the follow-on.
The other thing about Beard, which he's clearly demonstrated in the short time he's got back into the Essex side, he's no mug with the bat either. He's a better than useful club cricketer. He's a genuine all-rounder who bats round about the middle, 4 or 5. I know there's a big step up, but both yesterday and last week against Yorkshire, he's batted really well.
Harmer around the wicket, bowls, and forward comes the batsman to block that one out, and Rob Yates it is on strike at the moment. So 24 for 3. Yes, in his last 2 innings, Beard has made 70.
He has.
41 and a 29, and they've been priceless runs as well. Harmer's in and bowls. The ball is played to silly mid-on. Certainly yesterday they shouldn't have been priceless runs, and he shouldn't have been batting until after lunch today. But so many Essex batsmen got themselves out. None worse, Dick informs me, than Alistair Cook himself, out to an unbelievably poor shot by his standards. A single here to Rob Yates, who flicks the ball wide of mid-on, and Matt Quinn, in his traditional sun hat, nits round to mid-wicket to do the fielding, but not before Yates has moved on to 11, 25 for 3.
Yes, I doubt that he's played many or any worse shots than he was out to Sir Alistair Cook yesterday. It really was very disappointing at best.
Suffice to say that in this Essex batting lineup, who are, you'd have to say, prone to collapsing, it has been on frequent occasions the likes of Peter Siddle, Sam Cook. Siddle and Cook put on 86 for the last wicket at Headingley, and now Aaron Beard, who've got Essex out of a hole as this next ball's played into the offside to Patel, no run.
And yet, quite recently, this season, a couple of months ago, we were saying what a long tail Essex have got. It's quite odd, really.
Yeah. Well, of course, they're getting so much practice that they're improving.
I think that's what it is, because the personnel haven't changed much.
No, quite right. Harmer bowling to Mosley with 2 slips and a back pad, and this ball's played. Nice little shot into the covers, and Brown just has to make a bit of ground to his right at cover and can't cut off the single. So a confident start this from Mosley. He's moved up to 3, and it's 26 for 3.
Chris says that the reason that there's county cricket today may be that the 2020 starts on Thursday and the players need time to adjust to the new format. As
the next ball goes well wide of off stump.
He says, why couldn't they start the T20 slot a little bit later? I don't know. I'm amongst those who am quite happy In fact, at times more than happy to criticise the ECB, but all the time they're trying to squeeze the proverbial quart into a pint pot, aren't they? And it's not easy. I can fully understand that.
Well, they certainly don't make it look easy. I think they could do better, personally. I mean, actually, in negation in some ways of that point Chris makes is that, this game's scheduled to finish Tuesday and the T20 starts Thursday. So for me, that isn't giving them any time at all, really, to adjust. I feel that on occasion they could play, because T20 games are of such short duration, they could on occasion perhaps squeeze games in a little bit more closely packed together. But here's Beard coming round the wicket. Bowls to Mosley, who leaves the ball outside off stump, 26 for 3.
There are some who would say they don't need to adjust because too many of them are out playing 20-20 shots in 4-day cricket anyway.
Indeed.
So they've already adjusted. They've prematurely adjusted to 20-20 cricket.
And Paul Smith emails us, I'm patriotic, says Paul, and want England to win, but if Essex are playing at home, I'm going to be here if I can be. Well said, sir. I'm sitting at the ground listening to your broadcast and able to get updates many ways via the internet on the final. I'll watch the final when I get home. I hope Tony is enjoying his day scoring the World Cup. That's Tony Choate, the Essex scorer. Thank you for mentioning that, because it's a great accolade for Tony Choate, the Essex scorer, but he is the official England scorer at today's World Cup final. Thanks as always, Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. Warwickshire here, 26 for 3. Beard is coming round the wicket, Hayes close end. Bowls to Mosley, and he flicks at that down leg side and goes through without taking the edge to Wheater. But I've seen a lot of people out to what they call the strangle, just flicking down leg side from balls that they didn't really need to play at. So a little bit risky that, but he survives, 26 for 3.
Yes, indeed, and well, I've said it many a time, and no doubt I shall say it again. I'm never quite sure why it's considered unlucky to be caught down the leg side. It's a misjudgment just as much as any other shot that gets you out.
Beard bowls to Mosley, left-hander. Both these batsmen are left-handers. That goes through outside off stump, so Rob Yates in with Dan Mosley. Warwickshire trying to recover from losing Rhodes. LBW Siddle 3, 6 for 1. Banks bowled Quinn 8 at 14 for 2. And most recently, Hose Cook bowled Beard 0 at 21 for 3.
So the partnerships, such as they are, have been fairly uniform. Partnerships of 6, 8 and 7.
Beard is on his way again. Bowls, Mosley leaves that, and well, it goes right over the top of the stumps, but you can say, well, a good leave then.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Occurs to me, Mosley, admittedly he spells it M-O-U-S-L-E-Y, but I wonder if there are many other players in county cricket whose name is the same as an area very close to where they play their home games.
Well, that will set our listeners a nice little target, I think.
I mean, in Essex terms, it would mean you'd have to have a player called Hatfield Peveril, which sounds more theatrical than sporting.
Beard's in bowls, bouncer. And little difficulty for Mosley to get out of the way. New Zealand are building a good base. They won the toss and batted in the World Cup final. And they recovered from the early loss of Guptill to Wokes and are currently 73 for 1 halfway through the 18th over.
Mosley district in Birmingham, just up the road from Edgbaston.
Yeah, rugby club there. That
used to have. I don't know if they still have at all. Well, certainly not amongst the highest echelons, which they were. Used to produce several England players.
Oh, you're right. As Beard is in 2 slips a wide gully. Bowls, and this one just short of a length. Mosley gets up on tiptoe to make sure he plays it into the ground. And that is the end of a maiden over. There are 3 to Dan Mosley, 11 to Rob Yates, and the score 26 for 3, and we've now had 17 overs.
Yes, if there's any Warwickshire listeners who care to email us on the subject, it's not compulsory. Yeah, whatever happened to Mosley Rugby Club? Do they still exist, or are they just playing in the lower reaches of leagues now? I suppose I could Google it, but it's more fun to get listeners' views or information.
Here's Harmer, beginning a new over River End from around the wicket. Bowls to Yates, who plays the ball up to Silly Point, who is Ryan Tendescarter. Elsewhere in Division 1, Hampshire 394 for 9 against Kent. Nottinghamshire, bedraggled Nottinghamshire, we'd have to say 58 for 5, replying to Surrey's 240 all out. Nice shot here, and a brilliant stop by Nick Brown. And they scoot through for 1, but that was going to be 4. He dived to his right in the covers. It was a lovely square cut. And the score goes to 27 for 3. And Yates, who looks as if he's got something about him, has moved up to 12 there. The other, perhaps key score for Essex listeners, is Yorkshire 348 for 5 against Somerset. And they're now past the bonus point stage as the next ball is played out to Rishi Patel in the covers by Mosley. There's no run. So Somerset have only taken 1 bowling bonus point from that game after they put Yorkshire in. Kola Cadmore was out for 102, but Harry Brooker's moved swiftly on to 30 not out. As here is Harmer. Bowles, who will play in a miss here, beautifully taken by Adam Wheater. It was a stylish looking drive by Mosley, but the only problem is he was playing down the wrong line.
Yes. Oh, excuse me.
I will, as Harmer's in. And Bowles to Mosley, and Mosley again plays it stylishly. This time does get bat on ball, out to Patel in the covers, no run.
I was actually asking for the listeners to excuse me rather than you. I know you never would excuse me.
Oh, I would. No, you're proved wrong there, because that's precisely what I did do. As Harmer is in. Bowles, and a nice square cut again, but fielded at backward point by Aaron Beard, who, in addition to being such a good bowler, is an excellent fieldsman and no mug with the bat either, as he's proved. That's the end of the over from Harmer. 1 run from it, and Warwickshire replying to Essex's 2-4-5 at 27 for 3 and 18.
Yes, I've now ascertained to my pleasure that Mosley Rugby Club still does exist. In fact, they will be playing in National League 1 this season, which is the 3rd level of rugby, along with other former great clubs like Richmond and Blackheath. So there's 3 clubs who between them must have provided dozens of England internationals now playing at 3rd level of the game. At times they are changing.
I went to school with...
I didn't realise that.
No, I know, but there is more to come.
Oh.
With a guy who played both for Blackheath and England.
Right.
His name was Derek Wyatt.
Oh yes, I
remember Derek? He became
do.
a Conservative MP. As
he did.
Here is for Dartford, I believe, as this next ball goes through outside off stump. There's no run there, 27 for 3. But Derek was a great guy, actually. He suffered from asthma and needed an inhaler to, be placed on the touchline in case he had recourse to it. But he used to practice taking kicks for goal from the halfway line right out on the touchline, and he had a phenomenally long kick and would regularly land these. I was delighted to see him become such a good player, as Beard is in around the wicket. And Bowles, and Rob Yates has played this away. Just a tumbling stop by Rishi Patel, backward square leg, prevents a run, 27 for 3.
It's funny that you should say that, because the level of rugby I played in, there was often as not people waiting on the touchline, rather than with an inhaler, but with a packet of cigarettes.
I tell you what I always
especially
had.
At half time.
I was renowned for a packet of Tic Tacs, which would be in my pocket, because I used to suffer from a lot of throat problems and always had to have these Tic Tacs on hand, which is why I have so few teeth left, as Beard is in Bowles, and played with assurance, but doesn't get a run here by Rob Yates, down to Peter Siddle at mid-on. Warwickshire 27 for 3.
Other peppermints and various forms of confectionery available.
Indeed. Those were the days of pre-sugar free. I wish they'd had them then, because I would have literally probably got a full set left but for that. In Division 2, the scores are Durham 163 for 7 in a rain-affected match against Worcestershire, with various stoppages yesterday, as Beard is in again around the wicket. Bowls to Yates, and Yates drives and will get a single. Didn't hit it with full force. Tumbling stop at mid-off by Tendescarter. 28 for 3 with Yates up to 13. Glamorgan 89 for 5, replying to Middlesex's 384 all out. Lancashire 200 for 3, lording it over Sussex, who are 127 all out, and Northants 59 for 3 on what is day 1 against Derbyshire. And the England Lions Australia are 49 for 1 against the England Lions, an Australian 11 that is, and of course Dom Sibley and Jamie Porter of interest to the two counties here involved in that game.
Are they both playing?
Well, that's a good question. I'll check in a moment. I'm assuming they are, but one mustn't assume. And Beard from the Hayes close end will now bowl to Dan Mosley, who's on 3. Beard bowls. Mosley has played confidently so far. Plays it back past the bowler, but won't get a run. Peter Siddle, straightish mid-on.
Yes, they are both playing. I've just had a quick look.
Thank you.
As is Sam Hain.
And good luck to Sam as well. New Zealand continuing to prosper with a second wicket partnership. Kane Williamson very much involved with Nichols there. 91 for 1 in exactly 20 overs, having chosen to bat. Mosley settles over his bat. 2 slips. You could almost say 2 gullies here as Beard is in and bowls. And that's well pitched up. Playing a miss from Mosley. Bit of a loose drive. End of the Beard over. Just the 1 run from it. And Warwickshire 28 for 3 in 18 overs, with 13 to Yates and 3 to Mosley.
Yeah, for what it's worth, plenty. It could be the future of the England side, but the England Lions side comprises Crawley, Sibley, Folkes, North East, Bracey, Hain, Curran, S, Gregory, Robinson, Leach and Porter. Match being played at St Lawrence Ground at Canterbury.
Somerset have a 6 Yorkshire wicket, but Yorkshire 352 for 6 having been put into bat. Tattersall the latest man out. Here's the start of a new over from Harmer, and good diving stop there from Rishi Patel prevents potentially runs. It was a nice on drive. Whether it quite had the legs to have beaten the man behind Patel, I'm not sure. It may have done. Could have saved 4 runs. Harmer's in bowls, and this ball's played into the offside to be fielded by Dan Lawrence at short extra, and there is no run. Rod Yates, the man on strike. It's 28 for 3. Harmer getting through his over very quickly as ever. Bowls, and this ball is played to Patel at a very short mid-on, almost an old-fashioned silly mid-on in fact. Harmer again is in to bowl, and this ball is dug out there by Rob Yates. There's no run. Rishi Patel moving swiftly to his left from silly mid-on, and among the many virtues of Simon Harmer is that what would be a very slow Essex over rate left to the quicker bowlers becomes a very decent one, with Harmer bowling so many overs. And he flicks at one down leg side, beautifully taken by Wheater. Good hands there. He really has improved his wicket keeping. Could just do with getting a few runs on the board now from his number 7 position. Out for a duck yesterday. As Harmer's in and bowls to Yates, and Yates cracks this into the offside. Nick Brown is there, but they'll get a fairly easy single. Oh dear, now that landed on the half volley, and Wheater's in trouble.
He
I have
is.
a feeling he might have done a finger there. He's in no time taken the glove off. He's in trouble. And Nick Brown, unfortunately, sent one of those returns a wicket-keeper doesn't like. Got him on the end of the fingers. I think he's actually now looking as if he may be all right, or is he going to go straight off? He's certainly hopping around.
He's just sort of swinging the arm around to... and no, he hasn't called for any medical assistance.
I think probably some should, however, be rendered, because clearly that has caught him a nasty blow. And if you remember, he took one in the previous game here against Yorkshire, and I think he's going to be all right. It's 29 for 3 at the end of 20 overs. Warwickshire replying to Essex's 245.
Well, he's grinning from ear to ear, and had a word with Nick Brown on the way as they were changing from one end to the other. And apparently it all seems to be okay.
Yes, he probably said to Nick Brown, don't throw me something like that again, please.
Yes. What was it Brian Taylor used to shout out? In the gloves, mate, in the gloves.
Yes, and the point being, if you didn't aim at his gloves, then the ball would just elude him altogether.
Yes,
wonderful character, Brian Taylor, and great servant to Essex cricket. We thank him very much. It's 29 for 3. Beard is going to continue from the Hayes close end all left-hand partnership, so continuing around the wicket, 2 slips in the gully. Bowls, that's hit uppishly, but effectively by Rob Yates. He's going to pick up 2 to wide mid-on. Peter Siddle has a chase of some 45 yards back towards the wide long-on boundary, and it's 31 for 3, and Yates up to 16.
Yes, and Warwickshire creep into the 30s, 31 for 3, going along at just 1.5 and over, but then Essex didn't score very quickly yesterday, and that might have been one of the reasons that obviously Cheatham Patel bowled quite a few overs, but Warwickshire got through their overs very quickly yesterday as well.
Beard in again, bowls. Yates defends down to Tenduscarter at mid-off. To come for Warwickshire, Michael Burgess, Tim Ambrose, Henry Brooks, Cheatham Patel, Ollie Stone and Oliver Hannon Dalby.
Yes, the overs were bowled so quickly yesterday that fewer than 32 overs remained at tea time. We had an extra over in, and it fooled some people who started to walk off when 32 overs remained, because normally that applies, but it wasn't quite 20 to 4.
Beard makes his way in again and bowls, and Yates plays it down to mid-on. Peter Siddle, no run. We've got a cloudy morning, just the odd little burst of sunshine, but we're told that it should be a dry day. New Zealand on what was a 10:45 start in the end because of overnight rain, 98 for 1 in 21 overs against England. Hampshire 409 for 9 declared against Kent. Notts have lost another wicket, 66 for 6, the Devil's number against Surrey. Yorkshire 352 for 6 against Somerset. Yates settles over his bat, got a very straight silly mid-on as well for Yates here, and he did clip one uppishly earlier in the over. This ball's well pitched up from Beard, doesn't miss the off stump by much, as it was left by Yates, who remains on 16, and he's got more than half the runs on the board for Warwickshire, who are 31 for 3 in the 21st.
Yes, the weather's actually not as good as it was at the start. I can remember in the opening half hour or so I was saying that the sun was shining brightly and it was a lot better day than yesterday, but now it has clouded over. Not rain-bearing or threatening clouds, just dull grey.
Beard about to resume hostilities from the Hayes close end. In and bowls to Yates. Full toss there. He didn't have much control over that. I think it sort of rather slipped out of his hand. It goes through. It wasn't a dangerous delivery. It goes through to Wheater, who seems to be all right after that blow on the end of his fingers trying to field a Nick Brown throw. Score remaining 31 for 3.
Yes, certainly for a few seconds it looked as if he was in serious trouble, but he shook it off.
Emails to essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk. Very welcome. Thank you for those who've already emailed us. Here's Beard again. In and bowls to Yates. And Yates has turned this off the pads. They're going to get 2 runs here. Matt Quinn has quite a bit of ground to make from long leg round to square leg. And the score goes to all the 3s, or most of them anyway. 33 for 3. And Yates moves along to 18. And Mosley has 3 and 33 for 3 at the end of that, the 21st over.
Yeah, and I noticed Adam Wheater just indicated to the balcony that he wanted somebody to come on, but not necessarily to attend to his hand, but he made a sign saying he wanted a drink, so perhaps that shook him up a little, more sort of shocked than anything else, getting that ball on the end of his fingers.
Harmer to continue from the river end, and we've got 2 slips, a bat pad, a short extra cover. Harmer bowls. That was turn and lift. Mosley couldn't really be found fault with there. He came forward as he should have done, but it just turned past his outside edge.
Of course, Harmer is a very good bowler anyway, but he's in his element bowling to left-handers, moving it away from the bat.
Bowls again, and that's
and he's
out. He's just edged that through to Adam Wheater, and he was looking for the square cut, and Mosley departs, the 4th Warwickshire batsman to go, with the score 33 for 4, and that 245 for Essex Far fewer than they should have got, but it still looks a formidable total in the circumstances, with Warwickshire a very inexperienced top order, and while Rob Yates continues to play very well, but those at the other end are making a fairly regular trek back to the pavilion. 33 for 4, and a pretty good catch, I reckon that was, by Wheater, because it wasn't just a sort of nibble off the edge. The batsman was going for the full-blooded square cut, and he took it extremely well, I thought, particularly for a man who's just taken a nasty blow on the hand.
Yes, he did. Yes, he took it very, well, to say casually, it suggests he didn't put everything into it. Of course, he's concentrating, but yeah, very sort of matter of fact. And Wheater is indeed having an aspirin or a paracetamol or something, and Chris Clark irons, the very benevolent and affable physio, is providing succour and comfort.
And of course, that's Harmer's first wicket in the match. I think one of the safer bets that you could possibly have is that it won't be his last wicket in the match. And of course, I'm reminded, Dick, that in this game 2 years ago, the year Essex won the title, he took 14 wickets against Warwickshire here, a feat he repeated in the next game against Middlesex. So Warwickshire will be hoping that he doesn't do quite as well this time.
Quite. So all the 4 wickets that Warwickshire have lost have been to different bowlers, to Siddle, to Harmer, to Beard and to Quinn, and all of those out in single figures, 3, 3, 0 and 8 respectively. So it's very much Rob Yates who's contributed the major part of these 33 runs, and he's joined by Tim Ambrose.
Ambrose, a man who's scored runs against Essex in the past, decent runs I mean, not just 2 or 3, and he comes out now to join Rob Yates, and at the end of this over we'll bring Clive Eakin back.
And indeed scored a test century.
Yes, well remembered, I'd forgotten that.
I didn't remember it, I don't do that sort of thing, but it was discussed yesterday with David Brett. David Brett remembered it because he said, yes, it was in New Zealand, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
And it certainly was.
But you have remembered it, albeit only from yesterday.
Well, yes, that's remarkable.
That's good going for people of our age. As Harmer's in bowls. I don't remember anything about yesterday. So this ball's played into the covers. As I say, we'll bring Clive back just as soon as Harmer finishes this over. 33 for 4 on the board, and we've got a slip, leg slip and a forward short leg plus a short mid-wicket as Harmer's in. Bowls Ambrose, comes forward, plays it back down, well, a little bit away from the pitch, but the bowler will nevertheless retreat.
So the very fact that Ambrose has a test century under his belt suggests he's no mean performer.
Indeed, and very experienced with it.
Yes.
Here is Harmer again. Bowls, and that was left by Ambrose, nicely taken by Wheater, who's wicket keeping to Harmer, probably partly because he gets so much practice at it, but it's really become very good.
I think he's become very good this season, full stop, yes, since he was out for a few weeks, having sustained an injury in the opening game.
Harmer bowls, and that ball's just gone off something down leg side. It might be leg buys rather than runs off the bat. They're coming back for 2, but just wait and see if there is a signal here. I don't think there's going to be.
No.
A little bit of inside edge. 35 for 4, Ambrose underway, and Dick Davis will be joined by Clive Eakin.
Thanks, Paul, very much. With Warwickshire 33 for 4 in reply to the hosts 245. So that 96 scored to avoid the follow on is still 63 runs away. It's 35 for 4 actually. The score hasn't, the lesser of the 2 scoreboards still hasn't been updated. But, it has now. So quite a considerable time after those 2 runs were scored, it then registers on the lesser of the 2 scoreboards. And it's going to be Aaron Beard to continue from the far end, wearing number 14 for reasons best known to him. Bowling from the Hayes close end with the white sight screen behind him, and then immediately to the left the black sight screen, which will be much necessary on Friday when Essex have their first T20 game here Friday night at Chelmsford, as Beard moves in and bowls, and that's played with authority by Ambrose, but very well fielded at short mid-on by the diving Ryan Tender-Scarter, moving away to his right, so he actually fielded it on the strip. Sun making a brave attempt to come out.
Can't say this is a huge surprise that Warwickshire finding this tough. So he's a severely depleted and very inexperienced batting lineup.
Umpire just changing sides, not quite sure why. It doesn't seem to be anybody obviously impeding his vision, but maybe squinting into the sun.
Yeah,
possibly.
That.
As, so he's now at square on the offside as Beard moves in, bowls, and that's played solidly by Yates.
Now Dan Mosley, first class debut. He didn't look bad out there. He got 3, but hung around for a bit. I think the one positive for Warwickshire is I think Rob Yates. It's once again really looking the part. He's 19 years old and he's broken into the team this season. He looks a very bright prospect. Even if he's out next ball, I'll still stick to that.
Yes, fair enough. Beard into the left-handed Yates, who dodges out of the way of that, not exactly ducks, but just backs away a little bit. And it goes through to the wicketkeeper. Now has only had one slip, Sir Alistair Cook, immediately to his left. And then, sorry,
I'm going to say the good news for Warwickshire is that Notts are 71 for 7. Good old Notts. We can always rely on them.
Yes, as long as Notts continue to have their very poor season, which seems likely, then I don't think any of the other counties have really serious concerns about playing second division cricket next year.
I keep expecting them to improve though. They've signed Ashwin, they've got decent players. I do remember Warwickshire a few years back won their last, I think they won 3 of the last 4 games to avoid relegation, so necessarily take it for granted. I see Somerset were restricted to 1 bowling point. They did get a 6th wicket but too late. So just the 1 bowling point for Somerset. If that game ends in a draw, they could end up with something like 10 points. Real chance for Essex to close the gap.
Yes, certainly. As Beard moves in, bowls to Yates, who pulls that away for a single, as it's fielded again by Ryan Tenduscati. Pops up all over the place as captain. You couldn't say Tenduscati will always be found at such and such a place. He basically puts himself where he thinks the ball is most likely to go. I don't think, well, I was going to say ever. He's rarely to be seen in the slips, but almost any other position he's just likely to be anywhere. And what were we saying? Oh yes, Notts. You can't help but feel there's something afoot at Trent Bridge, that maybe extends beyond the players or behind the players. And of course, with them getting so many players in from other counties, there can't be a great deal of sort of unity amongst them. You wouldn't have thought.
I still expect it to get better at some point.
Yes,
they're stubbornly refusing to do it.
Yes. Well, we're only 2/3 of the way through the Championship season.
Well, Dan, there are 4 games left, isn't there, after this one? So they haven't got much time. They're probably getting to the stage where they need to win 3 of their last, 5 games, including the current one, which they could still win.
Yes.
Takes some doing.
So Beard to Ambrose, and Ambrose just dabs down on that. The slip cordon strengthened considerably. There was only 1 slip for Yates, but 3 and a gully to the new batsman Ambrose. End of the over, and Warwickshire 36 for 4.
Well, they needed innings from Tim Ambrose. He scored a century first game of the season against Kent, albeit in vain. He struggled since then. It hasn't helped the fact that he's been run out 3 times. But he's got, as you say, plenty of experience, plenty of pedigree. And with Rob Yates at the other end, battling hard and playing well, Tim Ambrose has to see this as an opportunity to get some sort of partnership for Warwickshire and get them some sort of score.
Yep, certainly, as Harmer moves in round the wicket to the left-handed Yates, who lets that go by outside the off stump. 1 slip and a silly mid-off.
Because right now a 2-day finish is not beyond the bounds of possibility.
Well, Harmer moves in and bowls, and Yates smothers any potential spin, which is quite likely in Harmer's case. He does turn it.
It would depend obviously on firstly Essex bowling Warwickshire out for less than 96 and then enforcing the follow-on.
Well, yes, which sides are less inclined to do nowadays. That's outside the off stump, goes through to the wicketkeeper.
I mean, one argument against it is there's so much time left in the match. It's not as if they have to hurry. On the other hand, if you bowl a team out for less than 100, you feel you're on top, you might as well carry on.
Yes. Anyway, it hasn't happened yet, and who knows, Warwickshire might mount
Get 97.
stern resistance. They might get first innings lead, and all sorts of things could happen, which is what keeps us fascinated by this game of cricket. We've all watched enough to know that we don't take anything for granted. And that's paddled round the corner for probably 4 runs. It seems to accelerate almost. I know it's impossible for a ball to accelerate, but it seemed to gain pace. Peter Siddle gave chase, but I think he knew right from the start it was 4 runs down towards the outlets, which will be providing us with nourishment in about half an hour's time.
He shows great mentality, Yates. That was a really good, confident
sweep
shot.
Yes.
Against the best spin bowler in the country.
And there he goes forward and smothers the spin. It trickles out on the offside, picked up by Darren Lawrence. End of the over. Warwickshire moved into the 40s. They're 40 for 4 in response to Essex's 245 all out.
And Yates on to 23. Having a chat with Tim Ambrose. Sam Haynan, Dom Sibley and Jamie Porter are all playing for the England Lions at Canterbury.
I looked down that list. The names all ought to mean something to me, but the name Bracey didn't mean. Who does he play?
I have seen him. I'm trying to remember where I've seen him.
Perhaps it's not a first division. Oh, you say you have seen him this season. So
well, the name rings a bell. Maybe it's the name rather than having seen him. I'll look him up in a second. I was unlucky for Warwickshire really to get Hayne called up, because when they first picked the team, I noticed, and I don't know whether they did it deliberately, with the exception of Somerset, who had 2 players in the team, everyone else had no more than 1, and that included Warwickshire at Dom Sibley, so it seemed a bit hard on them to then call Sam Hayne just because he scored 2 centuries the match before. James Bracey, Gloucestershire, so I have seen him because I have seen Gloucestershire play on my busmans on occasion this season, so he's a Gloucestershire player.
So it's Matt Quinn brought back into the attack to replace Aaron Beard at that far end, Hayes close end, right arm over the wicket, moves in. Oh, and not a particularly distinguished shot from Ambrose. The rehearsed shot afterwards is much better in as much as he moved his foot to it. But first of all he didn't, he just wafted the bat at it.
Kept low, didn't it?
It did keep low, went under the bat.
Indeed. He might be fighting for space a little bit here, Tim Ambrose. With Michael Burgess in the team, albeit as a batter only. Obviously Sibley, next championship game's a long way off. The likes of Sibley, Hayne and Bell are all likely to be back. So there will be players dropping out from this 11.
As Quinn moves in and bowls to the former England keeper and takes the bat out of the way as it goes through outside the off stump. Just see if anybody else has emailed us at essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk. We've had a pleasantly surprising number of emails this morning. People remain loyal to following their county as much as, or if not more than, their country. And there are so many ways nowadays that you can keep an eye on all sorts of things that are happening. And that's played very pleasantly out into the covers by Ambrose for 2. They'll probably have time. Yes, they will turn back for a 3rd easily as Nick Brown gives pursuit, and a good looping throw comes into the gloves of Adam Wheater. 3 runs accrue, 43 for 4.
What is in Warwickshire's favour a little bit in recent games, their middle to lower order has improved. They had a run of games where they looked alright with sort of 3 or 4 wickets down, but then would collapse fairly spectacularly. But last couple of games the lower orders look better. It's partly they've lost one of the players from that order, Ben Mike, who was on loan from Leicestershire, batted well at Canterbury and very well at Southampton, but he's gone back to Leicester. But they've got Michael Burgess in there now. Henry Brooks has batted pretty well on a number of occasions. Even Ollie Stone is a pretty decent number 10.
As Quinn moves in, bowls, and that's outside Yates, is off stump, and he lets it go through to the keeper.
So there is still a little bit of batting left, but still looks a pretty forlorn task for Warwickshire.
New Zealand 109 for 2 halfway through their innings, with Williamson out now. Obviously their danger man. Nichols not out 49, Taylor not out 3. That's outside the off stump, goes through to the wicketkeeper.
There's a theory that England find it harder to chase middling to low targets. If it's a belter of a pitch, they'll back themselves to chase almost anything the way they play. But there's a theory that when they're faced with a bit of a slower, more difficult pitch, they perhaps don't adapt as well as they might. We shall see, no doubt.
Yes, indeed. As Quinn moves in from the Hayes close end, right up over the wicket. Tall man, fair-haired, bowls now. And that's, again, is outside the off-stump. Oh, and we've been singing the praises of Adam Wheater, but that's gone through for byes. I don't think it deflected off anything. And, in fact, were byes indicated? Oh, yes, at last, but byes are indicated. I was going to say, I'm sure that didn't hit anything at all. So, 2 byes resulted. It went down to third man.
Well, Warwickshire will gratefully accept everything that's offered to them. This now equals the biggest partnership of the innings so far, of 12. Can they get to lunch without any further mayhem or damage? Whatever happens, I think we can safely say it's been Essex's session.
Yes, I think so. I'm always reluctant to get too excited because I watched too much of it before, but yes, at this stage Essex are in considerably better position, but 2 accomplished batsmen at the crease at the moment, one vastly experienced and the other who obviously shows extreme promise.
Well, Warwickshire were 3 very, very different sort of conditions. I'll come back to it in a second. But
as Harmer moves in again and bowls, and that's just played defensively, trickles back towards the bowler.
They were 3 down early on and 4 down not much later against Hampshire in that second innings before. But I think they were 5 down by lunch on the final day and battered out, ended up 8 down at the end of the day.
Harmer in again, just met with stolid and solid defence.
But it was a very different pitch and Simon Harmer wasn't playing for Hampshire.
Was Dawson? No, I suppose
no,
not.
he wasn't.
No, of course not.
No.
Or Crane?
I don't know, he wasn't. He wasn't selected. He's been out of form, apparently.
Oh, right. That's outside the off stump. Goes through to the keeper. So, who would have been their spin option then? Maybe
I wasn't there,
no.
So but I don't think they certainly didn't have a spinner of the sort of calibre we've seen in this match.
And that's just played defensively back to Harmer.
Frustration for Warwickshire, of course, is a very high danger that Jitan Patel won't really get an opportunity to try and extract some turn on a 3rd or 4th day pitch unless things change considerably in this match.
Harmer in again, bowls to Ambrose. Ambrose goes on the back foot and just plays it quietly out on the onside, picked up by Tender Scarter at short leg, forward short leg, end of the over. Warwickshire, a maiden, and Warwickshire 45 for 4.
As you say, it can change very dramatically in cricket, but that's the way it's heading now. So, batters have a shout out in the middle. Yates on 23. As I said before, you're always reluctant to over talk up a young player and put too much on him. As many a young player we've sort of said predicted high things for it. It hasn't really happened, but Yates really does look to have a great deal of promise. From a Warwick schoolboy.
Quinn to continue 1 for 11 in 6 overs. Moves in now, bowls outside the off stump, and Yates declines to play, just puts a front pad sort of half forward and then thinks, no, I don't need to take any risk with that, particularly since lunch is only about 13 minutes away.
19 years of age is Rob Yates. First class debut earlier this season. Just came into the back end of a pretty unsuccessful white ball campaign for Warwickshire in the 50 over competition.
And Quinn moves in, bowls to Yates, who more or less a carbon copy of the preceding delivery, just puts a right pad forward and but then declines to play. I didn't really put it right forward, just sort of transferred his weight slightly. Score still 45 for 4. Yates 23 of them, just over half. Ambrose 5. 4 deliveries of this over remain. There's a slight adjustment to the field, I think. Yeah, Tom Wesley's going to mid-on, and Siddler comes across to mid-off as the next delivery. It's played down towards the main scoreboard for 4 runs, down to third man, and Aaron Beard in pursuit, but the ball was always going to win that little contest. So 4 more runs.
Well, there were a few oohs and ahs there, but I think Yates played that shot pretty deliberately.
Oh, so did I, actually.
Opened the face of the bat, played it down.
Of course, a lot of kidology, isn't there, in this game? Well, all professional sport. But yeah, cricket does seem to encourage kidology.
I heard a great story, one of the rain breaks on Test Match Special. I think it was Graham Swan talking about Wayne Daniels, I think.
All right, we'll hear about that after this delivery, which is just played defensively, trickles out in the offside.
Daniels was batting apparently. It was this very ordinary spin. It's a club match, and there's a very ordinary spinner at the other end. But Wayne Daniels kept going, oh, God, that's a great delivery. But the first 5 balls of the over, God, where did you get this bowler from? And then the last ball he hit for 6. and Graham said, what are you doing? Just talking them up so they keep him on. So he let them look brilliant for 5 balls and then hit the 6th one for 6 every time.
A cunning plan. As Quinn moves in again, bowls to Yates, and again lets it go through to the wicket-keeper. No addition to the score. Just looking up Rob Yates, some very interesting club cricket, just trying to see who he played his cricket for. Well, he played for Mosley in the Birmingham Premier League. We've been talking about Mosley, the player, Mosley the rugby club, now Mosley the cricket team, he's played for in 2018 and 2019. Also played for Staffordshire, as he now faces up to Quinn, and yet again 4 balls out of the 6. He had the luxury of just watching it go through to the keeper. End of the over, 49 for 4.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play much club cricket this season. He's established
No, I'm
himself
sure.
in the Warwickshire team.
No, well, it says 2019, so he obviously has had.
Well, he would have been registered with the team, no doubt, at the start of the season. Might have played early season. He wasn't in the team right at the beginning of the season. Mind you, Ian Bell played a game for Nolan Dorridge. Coming back from injury, thought I'll get a club game against Nolan Dorridge against Berkswell, who are top of the Birmingham League. They're run by Dominic Ostler, who still bats on the line for them. So Ian Bell thought I'll get a bit of action. Out first ball. For Nolan Dorridge, it's a bit unfortunate for them. And him.
As Harmer moves in round the wicket to the right-handed Ambrose, who plays that defensively.
Interesting to see whether Tim Ambrose keeps wicket in the T20. The general feeling was that he might not. Alex Mellor might, or possibly even Michael Burgess now.
And he paddles that round the corner for 4 down towards the sycamore tree. A legitimate sweep, and 4 runs bring up the 50. Understandably not greeted with sort of tumultuous acclaim by the Warwickshire supporters who are here, and there are probably a few.
There are a few, seen a few around about. Familiar faces. They do take quite a good travelling support to Warwickshire. Mind you, it's tested their ability to travel lately.
Yes, that's just played out on the onside. Yes, indeed, at the beginning of the season, Rob Yates played for Mosley against Dorridge, a club you just mentioned, I think, and also against Kenilworth Wardens.
Yeah.
And playing a miss there goes through to wicketkeeper Wheater. Oh, and he also played against Walsall. So he's played 3 times for Mosley this season. And their home ground is called Scorers, Mosley's home ground. And another play and a miss. Went onto the back foot trying to play it through the covers, and finished up in the gloves of the wicketkeeper Adam Wheater.
It's pretty much within walking distance of Edgbaston. Warwickshire's 50. I'll give you in a second.
Yes, I think I know it. I think I've walked past the entrance to it. It's just pushed out on the onside.
50 came in 164 balls. Obviously they lost 4 wickets in that time. Essex also were fairly cautious in their first 50. That took them 143 balls. They lost 2 wickets in that time. So actually the scoring rate early in the innings isn't that different. Actually a little bit behind what Essex were doing, but lots of a couple more wickets has been the problem. Oh, lunch has arrived, or at least a bit of paper that says I can have lunch has arrived.
Excellent. Thank you, my man. So, yes, in his most recent innings for Mosley, Rob Yates was out for a duck, opening the batting, and they lost by 1 wicket to Walsall. Mosley scored 159, and Walsall got them, obviously, for the loss of 9. As next delivery from Quinn is played down to fine leg for a single, fielded by Rishi Patel, just in the shadow, not literally the shadow, but just below the Tom Pearce stand away to our right. So yes, Scorers, that's a nice name for a ground, I like that. Scorers in Shirley. Is Shirley a sort of subsection of Mosley then?
I wouldn't say that. It's quite close to
the actual address Mosley is, I'm really getting into this, I'm so much into club cricket, Streetsbrook Road, Shirley, Solihull. And that's outside the off stump, a long way outside the off stump as well, and by the time we'd have picked that up, it was somewhere between first and second slip, Messrs Cook and Harmer, who've struck up a pretty good relationship this year. They've stood next to each other for a long time in matches.
He's here 122 for 3s, I'm sure most listeners probably know because I've already got half an eye on it.
Well, yes.
Liam Plunkett's game claimed a couple there.
And Quinn turns. There'll be one more over after this, and that's outside the off stump as well. So too frequently, to my mind, Quinn has allowed the batsman the luxury of allowing them to go by outside the off stump. Line and length, line and length. The length is reasonably okay, but the line needs to be worked on a little bit. As Quinn wanders off into the distance, turns again, halfway through the over, 3 gone, 3 to go. Turns, moves in now, bowls, and again outside the off stump, goes through to the wicket-keeper. Yep, 3 slips in the gully. The 3 slips are Cook, Harmer, Wesley. Then in the gully, as usual, is Dan Lawrence, and then not much further away, backward point, is Nick Brown. And also on the offside there's skipper Ryan Tenders-Carter, that sort of short-ish extra cover, short enough to prevent a single. And the leg side, a mid-on, a mid-wicket and a long leg. As Quinn moves in again and bowls. And guess what? Again it's outside the off stump, and again the batsman lets it go through to the keeper.
If Essex go on to win this game, they will take 20 points, assuming they get full bowling points. If they don't get full bowling points, they won't win the game. But
you can't get 4 bowling points.
Full.
I beg your pardon. Full. I was going to say, sorry.
So they'll end up with 20 points. You'd have to say Somerset, because they might do well to draw their current game.
As Quinn moves in again, bowls. I hardly need to complete the sentence. Way outside the off stump, allowed to go through. So only 1 off that over, but it was fairly, with all due respect, he's a lovely bloke, Matt Quinn, but it's a fairly indistinguished sort of over, and he'll know that. He doesn't need me or anybody else to tell him. So 1 more over before lunch, it now being officially 12:57, and Harbour can get through overs pretty quickly, but whether he can get through them that quickly, may do.
Yorkshire 380 for 6, so you know, obviously a lot can change in any match, but at the moment you'd have to say Somerset will do well to get, well, about 10 or 11 points from that game. So
yep, Harmer in again, and played out well by Yates
So-
defensively.
If Essex win, they should be within single figures as Somerset, the way things are looking at the moment.
Harmer in again to Yates. Plays it just back with a square on the onside. There's a long, long way to go yet.
There is, and if Somerset lose their game, which obviously is very possible from the position they're in at the moment, they could be about on parity. Long way to go in both games, as you
Yes,
say.
I don't know quite what the weather forecast is like for the next couple of days either. Let's just play defensively. Trickles out to Rishi Patel at shortish mid-on. Harmer busy as ever. Tall, fair head. Moves in now. Round the wicket. Chopped down towards the third man, and Beard in pursuit. He will haul it in before it crosses the boundary. They've come through for one. They think about a second. They think about. They've taken two. Beg your pardon. They've taken two. They thought about a third, but wisely decided against it.
Well, I think Tim Ambrose, as a memory, has been run out 3 times this season.
Yes,
so he
probably.
was staying where he was this time.
Not the sort of thing you forget in a hurry. And Harmer moves in again and bowls. Worked away on the onside for a run this time.
That was a good run.
It was. He sort of played the shot and ran at the same time, knowing that he hadn't played it particularly powerfully, and therefore it trickled out to Quinn at mid-wicket, or straightish mid-wicket, or wideish mid-on. And they went through what was quite a comfortable single, 12:59 with one delivery left. Assuming they go by that digital clock on the scoreboard, I'm not quite sure.
Decent effort, these two. 23 added so far.
Yes, they've done really well. And Ambrose goes onto the back foot, lets it go through, and no, it looks as if we're going to have another over. It depends what happens by the time the umpire at the far end reaches the stumps. It does say 1 o'clock on the digital board, but indeed they are going off to lunch. They are going off to lunch with Warwickshire 57 for 4 in reply to Essex's 245, with the not-out batsman Yates 31 and Ambrose 9.
Very good. Good morning's cricket. Definitely Essex's morning, but a battle from Yates in particular. I thought he's batted superbly in that session. Batted through most of it for his 31, and Tim Ambrose giving him good support. So Warwickshire still in there fighting, but Essex well on top.
So thanks for listening, and I know there are other attractions, but do please log on, even if not for the whole of the rest of the day, at least dip in now and again to find out how Essex and Warwickshire are getting on here at the County Ground at Chelmsford. Thanks very much for listening. I don't think anybody wants me. Which won't cause me to lose any. I think the one I've got news is gone. Don't think they want me.
I know the feeling.
No, it's 106 now, they don't want me. Fair enough.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome back to Chelmsford, where I can report the odd spot of rain, but not enough to keep the players off. BBC Essex, BBC Coventry, Warwickshire, BBC WM here at the Cloudfm Ground at Chelmsford. Well, I saw what was called that. I thought it was a rival of yours, Paul, but it turns out the FM's got nothing to do with broadcasting.
No, I made the same mistake actually, but it means facilities management, cloud facilities management, but an easy misapprehension. And not surprisingly, really, we're going to have Peter Siddle back into the attack straight after lunch. Light not great. Matt Quinn before lunch, of course, he hasn't had much cricket at all in the last couple of years, and he was probably only obliging the batsman to play once or twice an over. And I think Warwickshire, who played pretty well in the spell up to lunch, particularly Rob Yates, who's hardly made a mistake in all the time he's been out there, which would be over an hour and a half. He's played very, very well.
Lights haven't come on, which perhaps is a surprise. Rob Yates has been outstanding. One thing that, and this is all part of learning and experience, sometimes he will play really well in a session and then sometimes struggle straight after an interval. So let's see how he copes with this one. I thought he was outstanding this morning.
I agree. Yeah, I can't remember him playing a full shot.
Siddle around the wicket to him, and he defends that out to mid-off for no run. Simon Harmer is stretching, so it looks like he will remain in the attack, again unsurprisingly.
What I've also enjoyed about Yates, apart from good patience and all this sort of business, but even playing defensive shots, there's an assurance about his play which some of the other batsmen, understandably, because they're mainly very inexperienced, have lacked. And he looks a confident player, which helps.
Siddle, who got Will Rose out, that was a crucial wicket. Had him in trouble 2 or 3 times before getting him out. He comes in now to bowl, and that's solidly defended once again by Yates.
Just giving you the latest World Cup score. New Zealand, who won the toss in the 38th over, excuse me, 163 for 4. And that included a rather fortunate LBW decision in England's favour against Ross Taylor, which had New Zealand not lost their review, would have been reviewed and would have been reversed.
You could say that was bad luck for New Zealand, or bad judgment from them for losing their review in the first place. In comes Siddle, and that's open face of the bat, played to point by Yates for no run. He's on 31. That's how daft about a partnership when it's on 24, but given what's gone before, that has just steadied the ship a little bit. Warwickshire's first target, I guess, is to get to 96 and take the follow-on out of the equation.
Yep, very much so. Of course, I think with so much time left in the game, Essex probably would bat again anyway, but nevertheless, Warwickshire want to keep the any deficit at all down to as few as possible.
Siddle comes in to bowl. And that's played to mid-on as no run. I mean, I agree with you. I suspect that's what they probably will do, because it is the modern way in the game. On the other hand, when you've bowled the team out for double figures, you're way on top. So not a strong case for taking it by the jugular and putting them back in again and carrying on.
Yeah, but of course you can look at it the other way and say, well, if Warwickshire bat very much better second time around, we Essex, as they would see it, don't want to be sort of chasing very many in the 4th innings.
No, but
I think if you have got lots of time left and it doesn't look as if any great amounts of weather interruption are likely over the next couple of days, it would make sense to bat again.
Siddle goes around the wicket and just tucks Yates up a little bit. The ball falls on the ground from his fly power. I know that the expression, was it Duncan Fletcher said the follow-on is overrated, but and he knows much more about cricket than I do, obviously. I feel it's now rather underrated.
Well, you do have a point, yeah.
Anyway, hopefully Warwickshire will make sure that it's not a course of discussion in this game.
Yeah, well, if this chap Yates keeps going the way he is, you won't have to follow on anyway.
And he drops a bat on that and goes for a quick run. That's well judged. It's a comfortable run in the end, and that takes him to 32. He'll keep the last ball of the over, yes it was, so he'll keep the strike. He's on 32. Tim Ambrose with them on 9.58 for 4.
Yes, I mean, he's played in a way that is ideally suited to the pitch here at Chelmsford. it's not a nightmare pitch by any manner of means, but if you play carelessly, you will be found out. You might get away with it once or twice, but you will be found out. So what you really need to do, as the success until he was out yesterday of Alistair Cook proved, is to get your head down, make good decisions, don't play risky shots, just be prepared to sort of play within yourself and make the bowlers sweat, you know, which is what Yates has done.
There's a Simon Harmer factor as well as he comes in the ball. That's a forward defensive slip. Short cover, you probably call it, and a shortish mid-on, right beside the pitch. That's left, turns away, and it's left by Yates. Simon Harbour not yet getting prodigious turn, but still asking one or two questions. He comes in round the wicket, and that's played down well. Harmer's conceded 19 runs and this is his 11th over. He's got the 1 wicket so far. Once again, doing a valuable job.
Yes, very difficult to score from.
He floats that one up, and that's guided to point. I'd say we have got the 2 best spinners in the county championship playing in this game, in Harmer and Chetan Patel. Harmer around the wicket, plenty of air for that one. Again, it's solidly defended by Yates.
Yes, up at Trent Bridge, Harmer sent down 40 overs and 24 of them were maidens.
Comes into bowl, and that's played. That was no run. I think also when you get a reputation, sometimes that gets you wickets and also stops runs being scored.
Quite right.
Opposition players are almost frightened of you, but that's another maiden. And it's 58 for 4, Warwickshire, replying to Kent's 245.
Just looking at scores elsewhere in the World Cup at Lords, New Zealand 165 for 4 halfway through the 39th over. Hampshire declared at 409 for 9, Kent replying 15 for no wicket. Notts a little bit of a recovery, as bad as this may sound, 105 for 7, and they've now saved the follow-on. Surrey made 240 all out, and Yorkshire are going to make it very difficult for Somerset to win at Headingley. They are 387 for 6, having been put into bat.
Siddle, 4 slips in place, comes right arm over the wicket, and that's Tim Ambrose, the first ball he's faced since lunch, and he defends that to mid-off for no run. The Lions playing an Australian 11. Australian 11 90 for 2, with 3 players who'd normally have been playing in this game. Jamie Porter, Sam Mahane and Dominic Sibley involved. Yes, if it wasn't for the Lions, Warwickshire would probably be about 73 without loss now.
Well, yeah, no, I agree, it could be, and I don't like these Lions fixtures, I have to say.
Well, Siddle comes into bowl. I was just slightly, obviously Porter might have taken 5 wickets. It's a difficult one. I think there is a place for them. I think you've got to be giving players a little bit of experience of an international style game. I made the point this morning. What I think was a bit tough on Warwickshire was it looked like when they originally picked the team, they pretty much made it 1 per county. I think Somerset had 2 players involved, everyone else had 1, and they say, okay, that's fair enough, and there was 1 each from each county then. But then for them to take Sam Hayne was a bit tough on Warwickshire. That's left by Ambrose. On the other hand, Sam Hayne will be encouraged, you know, he's still on the England radar.
Yeah, could it not, the Lions fixture though, have been arranged, bearing in mind that the T20 starts on Thursday, to, you know, clash with that rather than the county championship match?
Yeah, but I suppose the T20 is the major marketing game, isn't it? You don't necessarily want to take your best players out of that. I know that some players are different, but I mean, Hayne, for example, would play in the T20.
Yeah, but he can be released back into the T20, you know, soon enough. He might just miss 1 game.
In comes Siddle. Oh, that's gone past the outside edge of Ambrose, playing forward to that.
Kept low.
Yeah, taken by the wicketkeeper.
Ambrose is not a big man, but it's still kept low. And can't have missed the stumps by much, I wouldn't have thought.
There's a bit of gardening there, Tim Ambrose. In need of runs. Been a bit unlucky this season. Run out 3 days. heading for what looked like a big score on that flat track at Canterbury when Ben Mike, who did do very well with the bat for Warwickshire this time on loan, but unfortunately he ran Tim Ambrose out before Ambrose could really take advantage, and that was tough on the Warwickshire wicket keeper. And that's going down the leg side. And did that come off anything? It's certainly beaten wicketkeeper Wheater diving to his left. It's missed everything. It's gone for 4 byes. That whistled along. And Warwickshire will gratefully accept them. I think you could be too critical of Wheater there.
No, it was very quick delivery actually. Another wicket at Lord's. Neesham, who was showing aggressive intent, has been caught by Root off Liam Plunkett for 19, and Plunkett now has 3 wickets there. They say he's very good through the middle overs. He's certainly proved it in the final. 9 overs, 3 for 40.
4 slips lined up. It is 4 slips, no gully. 4 slips lined up together, and Ambrose gets solid bat on that, and it's half stopped by the gully, who does enough to prevent any runs being taken. And it remains 62 for 4. The bye is gratefully received to Warwickshire, and that obviously maiden for Siddle, but 4 byes came off it. So it's 62 for 4 Warwickshire after 33 overs.
So I didn't give you the actual score from Lord's, which is New Zealand choosing to bat 176 for 5 with 4 balls left of the 40th over. Latham and he's on 24. Latham has just been joined by de Grandon there, and
formerly of the Bears, Colin de Grandon didn't really come off for him the 2 seasons he played for the Bears. Won 2 matches where he impressed, but him and Grant Elliott, for whatever reason, it didn't really work. But
just swap scorecards if we may, because that one's the one I've been filling in. Thank you.
You won't have to fill it in for a while. Simon Harmer comes around the wicket. Oh, gets that loss of it. So much air. It's a full toss, and Yates has hit it straight against short leg, who's Ryan Tenduscartha. He might have got some padding onto that, because it doesn't seem to have hurt him, or if it does, he's not showing it.
No, he's a brave man, Ryan Tenduscartha. 39 years old now, but still fielding under the helmet.
Yes, it is slightly extraordinary, isn't it? As a captain, you think, what on earth are you doing fielding in that position when you could get someone else to do it? Well, that's basically offside for no run.
It's precisely the example he sets that I think has turned Essex round from an underachieving Division 2 side into a thriving Division 1 side.
He comes in, Harmer. He gets that one to pitch. It's a pity for an LBW here, and he's given him. Yates has gone, trying to sweep. He had to play that shot successfully to Harmer. I think I'd be reviewing that if I were him, but there's no review when he's gone.
Yeah, I must admit, I thought there was a little bit of a hint there of did it pitch just outside leg? Because he'd gone on the sweep. Doesn't mean that it did necessarily at all, and he got quite a stride in. Just didn't look quite right from here, but the finger has gone up. He's been found guilty, and a shame, because he played very, very well indeed for his 32, and that really was the first mistake he's made. But Harmer picks up his 2nd wicket, moves on to 59 for the season, and Warwickshire 62 for 5.
Yeah, well, it's not a massive score, but it's still a very good innings from Rob Yates, whose reputation continues to grow. He looks disappointed as he walks off, but he certainly battled well out there, but puts Warwickshire under yet more pressure. And we're going to see, I would imagine, Michael Burgess in there. Yeah, it is Burgess. So 2 wicket keepers together. And it's 62 for 5. So Essex take another big step forward. Going to get a win, while their main rivals, Somerset, they might yet win Somerset, but it'll take some doing.
Yeah, Yorkshire 392 for 6, and Somerset only taking 1 bowling bonus point, which makes their decision to put Yorkshire in look all the more regrettable.
So Harmer to bowl to Michael Burgess on his Warwickshire debut, and he pushes that one out to point. There's a leg slip, a slip, and a short leg to the right-handed Burgess. It's officially on loan from Sussex, but he's going to be signed permanently at the end of the season. That's already agreed. He defends that, and there's no run.
He had a spell 2 or 3 years ago, Michael Burgess, with Sussex, when he was on fire, got runs almost inevitably, but hasn't done quite as well since then.
He just clips that one to mid-on for no run. And that's the end of a successful over from Simon Harmer, dismissing Rob Yates, Warwickshire's best batter so far, for 32.
2 for 19 in 12 overs, 4 maidens for Simon Harmer, and he's been getting some turn, but not prodigious turn by any manner of means. But even when he's not taking wickets, he proves very difficult to score from. And when Yates attempted to repeat a very fine shot he played going up to lunch, sweeping for 4 off Harmer, this time he missed and was LBW. Peter Siddle to continue from the Hayes close end, 62 for 5 in 34 overs on the board.
And bowling to Tim Ambrose, who drops a bat on that and plays it at backward point for no run. Warwickshire still 34 runs away from making the follow-on. Not a source of debate. Tim Ambrose is unhappy about something. Now what's this? I'm supposed to have to do with Peter Siddle. Siddle's words rankle Tim Ambrose there?
Yes, I don't know.
So he does not short of a word or two. Peter Siddle comes into bowl. Ambrose pushes that to the offside. There's no run.
He's Australian.
62 for 5.
Yes, we have an email from a man who calls himself Lucifer Satan. Might I have the temerity to suggest that T20 cricket be rescheduled to the Himalayas in mid-January, with the teams composed of second 11 and club cricketers to alleviate the risk of injury to first 11 players prior to the inception of championship matches in April?
Well, I hate to tell you, but Siddle comes into bowl, and that's played, trying to work out the leg side's played off leading edge of the offside. I noticed the Tanner announcer saying that Essex's first match is sold out, so I'm afraid you're in the minority.
Yes, although of course it remains to be seen what the sales figures would be if they did play in January. But he continues. Your Warwickshire compatriot earlier remarked that he couldn't find any update on the current England Lions game, which just about sums up how utterly meaningless these fixtures are. Well, we have found the updates now. 90 for 2, the Australian 11. You finish. I suppose we can be thankful for tender mercies that Alistair wasn't appointed as captain.
That one's played to backward point. There's no run. So how does he propose that England players get a bit of, a bit of grounding, a bit of experience? Do we just have no midway point between playing county cricket and then getting straight into the England team, or do we try and give players a bit of experience and put players in an international setting and see how they fare there?
Well, that's one side of the argument. Another is, one that I would favour, is I think just playing county cricket is actually a better preparation for them than playing for the Lions. I can't think of many people who made big runs or wickets for the Lions who've gone on to play for England.
That's pushed back to the bowler. There's no run.
James Taylor, for example, got a mountain of runs for the England Lions, but still didn't get picked. Now, if you're going to have the fixtures and potentially disrupt the championship, for me, if somebody sort of does as well as he did, it doesn't make sense then to ignore.
Well, he did get picked eventually, though, didn't he? And you have to wait for there to be a vacancy.
Yes, but I'm not sure if it was so much later that he got picked. I don't know.
In comes Siddle. And that's played to the offside. There's no. And look, I get that it is a pain, and Warwickshire have been hit by it a few times, the Lions fixtures, and it is a pain. But on the other hand, I can see the purpose of it. You don't want to play too many such matches, but I can see the merit in it. And I take you mean about county cricket. The point is you're giving them an experience of it, and also, of course, your touring Lions play out in the winter, just as this is now Australia A are playing out. They play out in the winter, and they get experience of touring with an international side and playing against international opposition on their soil, and that's good grounding. So if you're going to do that, you've got to then allow the other teams to tour your country and play the games. Harmer, oh, that's a big shot. That's gone for 6. Where's that come from? From Michael Bird? I think it's gone for 6. Just waiting for. No, it's 4. It must have bounced just so. It's just out of our sight. It must have been pretty close. 6. It's bounced just in front of the rope. She's suddenly going on the attack.
Well, that's right, and you couldn't say really taken long to play himself in.
No.
But Handsome is as Handsome does. He can see the field's in, or was, and deliberately aimed it to an area where there wasn't a fielder, so well played.
66 for 5, and he plays that one down. He was a little late on it, which is why Simon Harmer got excited. He managed to play it down short of leg slip. 66 for 5. And Harmer bowls, and that's solidly defended by Burgess, who saves. I notice he's got 2 first-class centuries to his name. This is his 29th first-class match. He's made a few half-centuries for Warwickshire seconds since joining the county a couple of months ago. That one is defended. Back to the bowler, there's no run. This is his Warwickshire debut in any form of cricket.
Yeah, potentially a good signing.
Presumably he's been lined up as Tim Ambrose's ultimate replacement. That one's a 4 defensive. They have got young Alex Mellor, who will certainly play some white ball cricket. He did in the 50 over game, and I'm sure he'll play 2020. He's an accomplished batter, but maybe they feel that it's the batting that's his strength rather than the wicket keeping. That one is defended out into the onside. There's no run. He thinks about going for a single, but there isn't one there. End of the over, and slightly uncharacteristic attacking shot from Warwickshire, and that saw 4 runs scored, so it's 66 for 5 after 36.
I heard from Andrew Cozier, Essex supporter. He says, checking in on your enthusiastic commentary, going well here, meaning at Chelmsford, as is the other game, meaning Yorkshire v Somerset, where Yorkshire were 393 for 6 a few moments ago. Just on your point, Clive, I would make the point that there are 170 odd days that the season stretches over. If you're talking about Lions players, that you're looking for sort of 4 and 5 day cricketers, not 1 day. So I would say by all means have the Lions games, but bracket them when there's 1 day cricket going on, not when championship cricket, which only takes 56 of the 175.
I've got to go now, but I suppose part of the problem is the scheduling also depends on the touring team.
Yeah, fair point.
I just quickly say Siddle bowls, and that's clipped nicely off his toes by Ambrose. Oh, I enjoyed describing this one because that's going to go. We just cut off. No, cut off just before it reaches the ropes. He'll get 3.
Rishi Patel in the distance there. A good 3 to Ambrose as the light has improved considerably.
I just remembered I don't have to rush off. I haven't got a 2 o'clock piece. So where's Dickie? He'll come in for me.
Well, you've got another 10 minutes.
Oh, of course I have.
Yeah,
I was forgetting.
Yeah, no, we can't let you off that lightly.
Yeah, I'm getting confused. It's all this arguing with your correspondence is doing it. 69 for 5. So, how will Burgess approach Siddle now? 4 slips in place. Siddle bowls. Oh, that's gone straight past him, and that's hurt David Wheater's hand. That one really flew, and it rose, and clearly Wheater's not taking that in the middle of his glove because he's in some discomfort.
Now, he's a brave lad because I was saying earlier that in the previous game here against Yorkshire, he took a nasty, and I think it's the same injury that's basically, every time the ball hits his right hand, it's aggravating it. He's keeping going. I don't think he's actually broken anything, but again, that hurt considerably, taking that very quick delivery from Siddle.
Well, a pitch which hasn't really got much pace in it, that didn't half travel. That one, Burgess, that's a good shot from Burgess. He's used the pace of Siddle and just guided the ball through long off of 4. That's a beautifully timed stroke.
Certainly is. I mean, it was just a forward push. You couldn't say it was in any way a full-blooded off drive, but all he did was just come forward, timed it to perfection, and got it between bowler and mid-off. A good riposte from Burgess, who'd been beaten by a snorter the previous delivery. And so, bearing in mind Warwickshire need 96 to avert any possibility of following on, they are 73 for 5, and Burgess, trading in boundaries, has 8.
Yes, well, 23 needed to avoid that issue of the follow-on. Siddle comes into bowl, and he's hit that into the ground to the onside. Just brightening up here a little bit. I think the old spot of rain at lunch. I was thinking 2.5 days of rain, that will do from Warwickshire's point of view here, but no, it hasn't We haven't had any more of it. No interruptions in this game. If you weren't listening yesterday, we had a sort of interruption, although they didn't take any overs off. But well, slightly interesting situation at the end of towards the end of the day's play, when one of the Essex officials sort of ran out into the pitch and had a word with the umpires and told them to be ready because the air ambulance was going to have to land on the field, and that's a bouncer. There's no run. We'd seen an ambulance. I saw one. Apparently there were two ambulances inside the ground. I'm not sure what the incident was that caused that, and they were going to bring the air ambulance in. And sure enough, the air ambulance did fly overhead, so all the players and the umpires rushed off. But before it got anywhere near landing, the message came across that it wasn't required, so it flew away. I'm hoping the fact that it wasn't required was good news.
Yeah, let's hope so. I did notice that player had been suspended. I assumed it was bad light, but
no,
obviously not.
Siddle comes into bowl, and that's played to mid-off. And I would have to say, without knowing what the strict rules are, I think the umpires showed a bit of common sense in not bothering to say that's an over lost or 2 overs lost.
Yes.
We just came back and finished. Well, as it happened, of course, the day's play finished an over too early anyway, because Essex were bowled out.
42 overs, so England would be reasonably happy with the situation, you'd think, at this stage. 3 of those wickets taken by Liam Plunkett, and Kent 34 for 1 against Hampshire.
It's played onto the onside for no run. Harmer the bowler, he's bowling to Tim Ambrose.
And Nottinghamshire 110 for 8 against Surrey, who made 240. Yorkshire 401 for 7 at Headingley against Somerset.
Harmer coming over the wicket, quicker ball, which Ambrose is happy to watch pass him and into Wheater's gloves. Wheater, he's walking about a bit, he doesn't look too troubled, having been hit hard on the hand in the previous over. In comes Harmer, floats that up, and it's clipped to mid-wicket. There's no run.
Yes, he's kept very well to Simon Harmer, Adam Wheater. It's been against the quicker stuff that you can tell that jars his hand up quite badly.
Gives that one plenty of air, and it's played nicely off his toes. You'll get nothing for it though, Ambrose, because it's a very good stop at mid-wicket.
Yeah, Nick Brown excels himself these days in the field. Big man, but very agile.
Good shot, good stop, no runs. That one, given plenty of air. He sort of repeats the shot, Ambrose. This time he hits it more gently and past Brown, so he's able to scamper through for a single. That's Tim Ambrose's 13th run. It takes Warwickshire to 74 for 5. I succumbed to an ice cream, I'm afraid, over lunch today. It's toffee ice cream.
Oh, it's very nice, that.
I didn't ask for a flavour. They gave me one anyway. I thought,
Yeah, they're all flavours. Excellent ice cream down there. I had a toffee one the other day. It was superb.
73 for 5, Warwickshire. Been up against it really since early in the innings. They're showing a little bit of fight in the middle order, but they still are very much up against it. They were 33 for 4, so I suppose from that position they've lost 1 wicket for 41 since then, so I wouldn't quite call it a recovery, but it's maybe a little bit of a battling effort.
Aaron Beard is going to replace Peter Siddle at the Hayes close end. Big responsibility on Peter Siddle in the absence for Essex of Jamie Porter, who is considered the sort of leader of the attack, even though obviously Peter Siddle's got distinguished international experience, which Porter doesn't have, but Porter has been so successful from that Hayes close end over the last 5 years that he always has the right to choose that end, as it were, and justifiably so, looking at all the wickets that he takes.
Well, I think Siddler's probably been more influential than the 1 wicket he's got would suggest. Beard comes into bowl, and Ambrose works out slightly uppishly down to fine leg for a single. I think he got the 1 wicket, but also I think it's one of those ones where he caused the batters a lot of problems, and then quite often you do see that the next bowler comes in and actually gets the benefits.
No, absolutely.
And I think that you could certainly put Adam Hose's dismissal to Beard in that category.
No, that's right. I think batsmen, when they see the back of Siddle, think, oh, thank goodness for that, I can relax a bit. And then you can find that the next cab on the rank proves otherwise.
So, here comes Beard to Michael Burgess, who defends that to mid-on for no run.
4 slips in for Aaron Beard, and that's a good testimony, bearing in mind this is the first season in which he's had more than just the odd game. In the Essex first team, he played the very first game against Lancashire when Essex won the title 2 years ago, but that was his only game that season. I don't think he'd any more than that last year, but certainly taking advantage of his opportunity this year.
Right arm over, and Burgess defends, and he did take a knock to his left hand. One of these strange quirks in cricket. He's a left-hand bat and a right-arm bowler, but he did take quite a blow to his left hand towards the end of the Essex innings yesterday, but evidently that's not proved too serious.
Notts have lost yet another wicket, 116 for 9 against Surrey.
Good old Notts.
Yes. Yeah, they're taking the pressure off Warwickshire for sure.
I'm sure Dave Bracegirdle's enjoying his season. In comes Beard, and that's defended out to the offside for no run. 75 for 5.
Just on that point, Clive, I heard you saying earlier that Notts need a really good finish to the season to have any chance of avoiding relegation. You'll be even further relieved to know that one stat I gleaned from Dave Bracegirdle when Essex played at Trent Bridge last September is that Notts have won only one championship game in September in the last decade.
Really? In comes Beard. Just 3 slips in now, and there's a little tip and run there by Burge, who proves that he can run runs as well as hit boundaries. Burgess, that's his first non-boundary. He's on to 9, and it's 76 for 5. It's sort of 2 slips and probably a 4th slip. There's a gap between second and 3.5 or 4. And same for Tim Ambrose, who turns that round as pass. Just straight down the leg side a little bit, Beard, but there is a man protecting him there about 3/4 of the way back at fine leg, so it's just a single for Ambrose. And that's the end of an over from which 2 singles were accrued from memory. 77 for 5. And Burgess on 9, Ambrose on 15.
And I think having almost gone too soon before, it's about time to...
I'm overstaying my welcome now. Can't make up my mind.
So we'll bring Dick Davis in to join myself, Paul Newton. Just tell you that New Zealand have reached 200 for 5 in 43.4 overs at Lords. So they've got another 6.2 overs, 38 deliveries to try to add to their score. 201 for 5. It's gone with a single from the next ball. Hampshire 409 for 9 declared, Kent 40 for 1. Notts 116 for 9. Surrey having made 240. First ball of the Harmer over. Ambrose plays back to the bowler, and Yorkshire go on and on. 415 for 7 against Somerset. Harmer bowling to Ambrose with a slip. A backward short leg, a forward short leg, and a short mid-wicket as Harmer gives the next ball plenty of loop, and it's a short mid-wicket. Nick Brown will have one of the easier fielding assignments of the day for him. He's been very alert and alive in the field, saved a good number of runs as Harmer is in again, bowls, and all defence there. Ambrose just stops it in the crease. Dick.
Yes, thanks, Paul. So, Essex will be heartened by the taking the 5th wicket. Rob Yates, who certainly looks a very, very good prospect indeed. And any thought that Essex might have to weigh up the pros and cons of enforcing a follow-on, I think now purely academic. I'm sure Warwickshire are going to get the other 19 they require.
And the umpires are deliberating as to whether this ball is fit for use. They may even, I think, just be trying to smooth away something sticking up in it. And Tender Scarter is now supervising. Looks as if they may be calling for a change of ball. So we see this happen very frequently here, and it looks as if Essex secretly will be saying, it's worked.
Yes, the other ploy which Essex and indeed other counties with similar grounds have employed, is to deliberately bowl something that might get hit out of the ground and they have to replace it.
Yes, that's worth it for 6 runs.
Yes, good lord, yes. And it has happened on several occasions, yes. There's getting nothing out of the ball, yeah, and for the relatively minor cost of 6 runs, you suddenly get a ball that does all sorts of things.
So Steve O'Shaughnessy just deciding on which would be the most suitable replacement here. It has to be said that neither of the incumbents, Tim Ambrose and Michael Burgess, have looked in any trouble so far. Was one delivery, a real snorter from Peter Siddle, that beat Michael Burgess, but it would have beaten most batsmen anyway, and apart from that, they've looked quite assured out there.
They have. One thing's for sure, talking about replacement balls, Essex will probably need plenty during the forthcoming T20 matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
They lose no exaggeration to say they probably lose 1 or 2, if not more, every match.
Harmer with the replacement ball is into Tim Ambrose, who back cuts, and that'll be 4 runs, and it looks as if the new ball is very much to the liking of Warwickshire there, 81 for 5.
Yes, well controlled shot from Ambrose there.
And so Harmer probably saying to the umpire, I think we'll have the old one back if you don't mind, but no such luck, and Ambrose prepares to do battle with Simon Harmer again from the river end. The light has once again become rather grouchy as Harmer's in bowls, and this ball is played through square leg. There's a backward square leg, but no one who can intercept the ball in time to prevent a single. Aaron Beard does the fielding, and he was running from backward square leg to just in front. Single to Ambrose, who now moves along to 20, 82 for 5. Harmer again. Bowls to Michael Burgess, and that one turns down leg side. Hasn't actually been Harmer's best over, that one, whether he got phased by the ball needing changing, but that wasn't a well-directed delivery, that last one. 82 for 5, and we have now had 40 overs in the innings.
Speaking of Harmer, it's quite interesting last night when I was talking to Andre Nell. First time I think I've ever spoken to him, well, at Chelmsford, but I think I spoke to him when Essex played in Dublin once, years ago. For a start, I'd forgotten quite how intimidating he is. I'm only a little fellow, really, and he sort of towers over you, and big man in every respect. And anyway, I asked him about Simon Harmer, and with them being both South Africans, had he encountered him before he came here?
Beard is in meanwhile and bowls, and a little bit of an edgy shot, but all along the ground to backward point, no run.
And I rather gathered from what Andre Nell said, he was a bit too modest actually to say in as many words, but he was quite instrumental in getting Harmer here, because the story he said was that Ronnie Irani, as chairman of the cricket club, had heard about Harmer, had phoned up Andre Nell in South Africa at the time and said, what do you know about this bloke? We're thinking of it. And as a result of which, presumably Nell gave him a good reference.
This is a leave outside off stump.
And as a result of what we presume to be a very good reference, then the South African came to Essex. So I think Andre Nell has to take some credit for it, as well as Ronnie Irani.
And who knows, that may actually have had quite a bit of influence in getting Andre Nell the job.
May indeed,
yes.
Yeah. May. He thought, well, yes, it could return the favour.
Certainly it's worked very well from that point of view so far for Essex. As Beard is on his way again, longish runner. Bounds in, bowls, this one a little bit shorter, and well defended by Ambrose, who just plays it straight into the ground, and the ball travels no further than a yard back down the pitch, and score remains 82 for 5.
Yes, Andre Nell is sort of in charge for this game, because the usual head coach, Anthony McGrath, is otherwise occupied, because apparently his wife is due to give birth at any moment, and understandably Anthony McGrath wants to be there, and his wife no doubt would like him to be there as well.
So Beard, 2 slips, the gully is in. Bowls and off the back foot, not quite out of the middle of the bat, didn't make a good sound off the bat, but plays it safely enough into the covers. Tom Wesley fields, and the light I think we could see the floodlights on before much longer. It had improved after lunch, but it's got rather grim again.
Yes, it's still quite muggy-ish, if there is such a word. There is now.
Yes, as Beard is into bowl to Ambrose. Ambrose just flicks it into the onside, explores the possibility of a single, sees Rishi Patel rushing in and thinks better of it, and once again the status quo at 82 for 5.
Yep, so still scoring at fewer than, well, exactly 2 and over the run rate, according to the scoreboard.
New Zealand 211 for 5 in 45 overs, beginning to accelerate, but they feel they probably need to. 5 overs left. Beard is in, bowls, and nicely played off the back foot by Ambrose, but straight to Nick Brown at point. He doesn't actually take it cleanly, but it's not to matter. And the score at the end of the 41st over of Warwickshire's reply to Essex's 245 all out are 82 for 5, with 20 to Ambrose and 9 to Burgess.
Yes, still, as one would expect, when there are so many counter-attractions today, not a vast crowd here, but still pretty good, especially in the members' enclosure away to our right.
Harmer coming in for his 16th over. 15 overs, 4 maidens, 2 for 29 thus far. And bowls to Burgess, who's whipped this one away, and the fine diving stop by Aaron Beard, who's a very good fieldsman, at sort of 45 degrees behind the wicket on the leg side, dived to his right and certainly saved 1 run. I don't think it would have gone to the boundary, but 83 for 5 as Burgess moves into double figures with that single.
2 of the 3 counter-attractions are on television sets in or around the pavilion, and those in the vicinity are welcome to watch. They've got the cricket on a couple of screens.
Harmer's in bowls, and ball played to Beard at sort of position 45 degrees behind the wicket leg side. Harmer again just tending to start the ball sort of midland leg, so it's going to miss leg stump. Not quite getting the optimum line here from around the wicket. That was another case in point. It doesn't produce a run, but no chance of getting a wicket with that one, as Beard again does the fielding.
And Wimbledon on another one of them, so you can be in the same room, or the marquee next to the pavilion, turn one way to watch the cricket, the other way to watch Wimbledon.
Harmer's in and bowls, and this ball's run down to backward point and no run. Yes, I watched the semi-final between Big Rog and Rafa Nadal, and he is amazing for 37 years old, the way Federer can get round that quarters. Harmer's in and bowls, and this is swept for 4. It was again down leg side, and I don't think Harmer himself, if he was sitting next to me, would disagree with my point. He's starting the ball too much leg side, and that was completely outside leg stump, not where you want to bowl it for an off-break bowler. It's very well dealt with by Ambrose, who just whipped round and had turned it round the corner, basically. Far too far fine for Beard to have any chance of cutting it off, and the score goes up to 87 for 5, and Ambrose to 24. Harmer bowls to him again. Again it starts too much outside leg stump, and again it's 4 runs, as this time it's a little bit squarer of the diving Beard. Nothing he could have done. 91 for 5, and Ambrose to 28, and I put that down as a candidate for the poorest over I've seen Harmer bowl.
Yes, I think it would be up there amongst them. It would certainly be amongst the medals. It would podium, as they say.
I love it when they invent a verb out of a noun.
Any noun can become a verb nowadays. Yes. And or nouns can become adjectives, and adjectives can become nouns. You know,
anything goes.
Any positives, always still rankles a little with me. Sticks in the craw, I think is the phrase.
So, uncharacteristic largesse from a Warwickshire point of view from Simon Harmer.
Yes.
Bowling a really loose over, 2 for 38, 9 runs came from it. And here's Beard bounding in from the Hayes close end, beginning a new over. Bowls to Burgess, plays it down to mid-off, and at the moment this pair are playing very sensible cricket, taking no risks, and Essex are having to scratch their heads for where the next breakthrough might be coming from.
Well, they are. I mean, they've still got Tom Wesley. There are several other options they could use. And can't help but wonder whether, under these circumstances, they miss Ravi Vapara a little bit.
Quite agree. That's Beard is in. Bowls and ball played back to the bowler. Indeed, my only hesitation would be that Ravi just hasn't actually been at his best with the ball this season. He batted very well, but in the past, on his form of previous seasons, you couldn't get him into the attack fast enough.
No, but with all due respect to Ravi Vapara, he often picks up wickets even when he's not bowling well.
No, that's true.
Or even if it's only the odd one to break a stand.
Yes, Ravi missing this game with a back problem. It's not the bug which caused him to miss the previous game, but it does mean that of 10 matches this season, he's uncharacteristically missed 4 of them. You'd have to say in terms of results, it doesn't look as if Essex have missed him, but I think they could have done with him here with both bat and ball. As Beard is in, bowls, and this ball is played out into the covers, and once again there'll be no run. Tom Wesley does the fielding, so Warwickshire now are only 5 runs short of passing the 96 they needed to save the follow-on. It's long since looked academic, but at 33 for 4, you had to consider it.
Oh yes, Dan Lawrence and Tom Wesley can purvey various forms of spin bowling. We're never quite sure what Dan Lawrence bowls, but then neither is he, I don't think.
Beard rushes in again, bowls to Burgess, and that was just a hint of uppishness. Back past the bowler to be fielded by the skipper at mid-off. So he went on the drive, didn't really time it, and if anything, I think the shot he played afterwards suggests he was trying to turn the blade and play it through the onside, inviting gap through mid-wicket, a yawning gap, but a bit of a leading edge therefore, which was why it was slightly uppish. However, no change, still only 5 down, 91 on the board.
Tendus Carter himself, of course, can bowl. He seems to bowl less and less with every passing season.
Beard is in, bowls to Burgess, and this one nicely fielded by Wesley in the covers, preventing a run. Yes, Tendus Carter now will only tend to bowl in extremis, but maybe Essex are beginning to get towards that sort of situation. They of course have a nice weight of runs in front at this stage, 154, but these two look as if they can reduce that by some considerable amount. And these two are Burgess on strike, Ambrose at the other end. Beard bowls to Burgess, and again a bit of an edgy shot, but it produces a run nonetheless to Nick Brown in the covers. 92 for 5, and Burgess will move up to 11 as the 43rd over of the innings reaches its conclusion.
Yes, you're listening to commentary via BBC Essex and BBC Coventry and West Midlands, and we know that not a lot of you are listening by either of those media, but we hope you're enjoying what you are getting. Maybe Essex listeners are enjoying it slightly the more. Any more emails, Paul? Oh.
No, we haven't for the moment.
No internet, it says on your screen.
That's right, I'm just hoping to reconnect. Harmer beginning a new over from the river end. And this ball has been pulled away to deep mid-wicket and evades the dive of Rishi Patel. 4 runs to the mid-wicket boundary, to the credit of Ambrose, who moves along, to Burgess, moves along to 15, and has scored a 96 for 5, and that signifies that any possibility of being asked to follow on has been averted.
Patel didn't seem to see that quickly enough. He for several seconds he just stood there motionless, not sure where the ball had gone. By the time he saw where it had gone, it was too late really, and the dive was somewhat posthumous.
Harmer bowls, takes Burgess on the pad, but clearly going to have missed leg stump, and again an untidy start to this over from Harmer, who just continually is beginning this ball, the ball on the leg side, and he's now, I think, rightly switched back to over the wicket. As he bowls again, it's a better delivery, albeit would probably still turn past leg stump, and Burgess plays it comfortably out to Nick Brown. At the moment, I'm not managing to reconnect. The internet will try again, as here's another pull and another more. 4. And Harmer at the moment is proving very, very expensive. Burgess has once again hit him for 2 boundaries in an over. It was at Ambrose last time, but that's consecutive overs where Harmer has conceded 2 boundaries, and applause for the 100. Warwickshire 100 for 5 in 43.4.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, most uncharacteristic spell by the South African.
Harmer bowls again, it goes down leg side. He just cannot. It's very strange to explain this, really. He just cannot get his line right.
He will, I'm sure he'll have the last laugh.
Comes in again. To Burgess, that was starting on a better line. Nevertheless, it's still angled into the onside to Nick Brown. Another over ends. 44 have been bowled, and the Warwickshire improving, are 100 for 5.
But they are putting a little bit of a fight now, Warwickshire. They're 100 for 5. They were 33 for 4 at one stage. Rob Yates, once again, the 19-year-old former Warwick schoolboy.
So still overcast, but the floodlight's still not on, and it is a little